So, briefly, anyone who's listening, the dancers in particular, those that cared for her, if there are any changes, please let me know to what I'm going to say. So, and very happy to see everyone. Margaret Craske was born on November 26, 1892, in Mudford, Suffolk, England. She began dancing at age 14 and was a prodigy. In 1918, she began her lessons with Enrico Cicchetti. Her career came to an end when she damaged her Achilles tendon. She became Cicchetti's assistant and took over teaching at his studio. Between 1929 and 1931, Margaret lost many that she was very close with. Those she loved died. She needed a place to rest and recover. On her way to the south of England, I don't know my voice, she began, she began talking with a woman. The woman told her about Meredith Starr's retreat in Devonshire and suggested Margaret visit. Margaret went to the retreat, and when she arrived, she saw a photo of Baba and asked who he was. 5 months later, Baba came to England with an entourage. It was Margaret who opened the door for Baba when he first arrived at Kitty and Herbert Davies' London home. Baba was standing at the foot of the steps leading to the front door, dressed in a thin white gown, a short furry coat, and a pink turban. And he was looking at the house very quietly. He passed in through the door and, she said, gave me a smile in passing. A little later, I went to see him. I was very nervous and did not know how to address him. But as soon as I entered the room, I was completely won over by the love which seemed to permeate his whole personality. He spelt out on the alphabet board, "It was your love that brought me to the West." She saw him at that moment as a vision of gentleness, grace, and love that touched the heart immeasurably. Before that first day was out, she said, there has never been a moment's doubt as to his being the embodiment of love and life. Baba invited her to come back to East Chalicum. September 19th, 1931, she wrote, "The whole time was invested with a dreamlike quality of pure love and life." Baba asked her to dance. She was wearing a tight skirt, country boots, and there were no flat surfaces. And then Kenneth Ross joined in with his bagpipes. Because she spoke French very well, Baba invited her to travel with him on the train to Marseille, where Baba and his entourage would be embarking back to India. She had the compartment next to Baba's. Baba told her if he knocked 3 times, it meant "I love you," and that she was to knock back 3 times. This transpired throughout the entire night. On one occasion, Chanji said of her, "She is a link type. Baba must have Margaret." In 1932, while near Santa Margherita, Baba was in a playful mood. He made signs, and Chanji translated that Baba said I should give him a dancing lesson. This was fun of the highest order. Chanji took Baba's hand and brought him to class. I then took his hand and showed him a simple 1, 2, 3 hop step. No obstacles. He took it at once, and then hand in hand, we flew around the garden path, and I really mean flew. He could move as no one else has ever moved, with joy, freedom, rhythm. The next time she danced for Baba, she had no prep, heavy clothing, an old gramophone, and broken records, and she had to dance for over a half hour. In February 1933, she was one of Baba's first disciples to receive an invitation to come to India for several years. They returned after 3 weeks. Baba then invited her with others to come to Nasik in December 1936. This time they stayed until July 1937. When Margaret went back to the West, Baba placed Falu, a son of Rustam and Franis, to her care. This helped her in 1939 when she received an order from Baba to come to India immediately and bring Falu. It was very difficult because the war was in progress. She eventually left England and was able to bring Falu. She had two 10-pound notes in her shoes, and she used those notes to get to Baba, and she had no more money. Margaret spent the next 7 years in Baba's ashram. She was given the job of reading to him, caring for the animals, teaching Mera and Mani to swim. There were many travels through India during this time. In 1946, Baba asked her to return to London and then go to the US. Baba told Margaret prior to her traveling to the US, she would lay cables for him. Laughing, Baba opened his hands and then spelled out on his alphabet board, "You must go. I have made you my link in America." She arrived in New York in 1946. She was 54 years old by New Year's Day, 1947. She was teaching in San Francisco, later in New York and Massachusetts, and had a very impressive teaching career. During her teaching career, she brought so many to Meher Baba, so many of her students, and they came when Baba came to the center in 1952. After Baba's accident, Delia phoned Margaret about the car crash. Baba wanted her to come to Prague. The next day she flew there. Baba asked her to exercise the muscles on the right side of his body, which she did 3 times a day, and she did what she could for Mera and Elizabeth. In 1956, she sat at the main table with Baba and others at the Longchamps restaurant. She also, with her several of her dancers, accompanied Baba to the Holiday Lodge in San Francisco prior to his visit to Australia. In 1958, Margaret told 5 of her dancers to carry Baba in his chair at the center, and several of his dancers also performed dances for Baba. She taught until 1986 when she retired and she moved to Myrtle Beach, living at Happy House, sharing stories with so many of us. She was a member of the board of directors at the Meher Center for many years. She wrote 2 books, aside from 2 books of dance that she had written. She wrote in 1980, The Dance of Love, in 1990, Still Dancing with Love. When they first met, Meher Baba said of Margaret, "I had not expected to find you so fast." After Margaret gave Meher Baba the dancing lesson in 1932, she wrote, "I knew without intellectualizing it that dancing was, is, and always will be a part of God." Of Margaret, Baba said, "You're a jewel of a disciple." Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. That was beautiful, Karen. Thank you. You just evoked so much in me, just hearing about her. I'd like to just quickly say a couple of things. If you want to see just the person who's speaking, if you go to the little view tab on your computer and click view and click speaker, then you'll just see who's speaking. But if you want to see who's here, you can use the other view, which is the gallery view. So I just wanted to say that so you know for yourself, for your own enjoyment. And also those that want to share, we're going to ask you to raise your hand digitally. And you do that by on a PC hitting Alt Y, and on a Mac it's Option Y. What I'm going to do is ask, we have kind of a lineup today, so we're not going to just go by hands. I see Rosalie's ready, which is wonderful. But I think what I'm going to do is start with Margaret Bernstein, who has a limited amount of time, and asked if she could share first. So I'll start there. And then I may go through the dancers alphabetically just because it's simpler. to do that. And I don't want to be, I thought that might be a way to go. So Margaret, there's also a little slideshow, but I'm going to ask Margaret to share. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Well, thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Karen. That was such a beautiful introduction, Karen. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me here. And I know that there's so many beautiful Baba beloved people here. So it's so nice to be with Baba's family. And so for those who don't know, I am the goddaughter of Margaret Craske, and also she's my namesake. I was named after her. Both my parents, Harry Bernstein and Bunty Kelly Bernstein, were her students. My mother studied with her in London, actually. My mom was a ballet student in London. For those who don't know, she actually was in the Royal Ballet at the age of 14. She was professional at the age of 12. And my father actually studied with Miss Craske at Juilliard. He was the first male dance graduate from Juilliard. So they met through Miss Craske. My father at the time was, there's long stories with my parents, but that's another story. So Miss Craske had come back to New York after the war. Baba sent her back to New York and said, you must teach dance. And my mother came about a month later from London after she was, after the war, she'd been performing for soldiers. And Baba was a little bit of a taboo in London when my mom was growing up because he was in the papers and people called him the black sheep Baba. And my grandmother told my mother never to have anything to do with Baba. So of course my mother ran to see Miss Craske right away and said, now you can tell me about Baba. So anyway, I was very fortunate. My mother had danced for Baba in 56 and 58. I sent a picture of Miss Craske and Baba and my mom and a few of the other dancers. That was Karen just mentioned at the Holiday Hotel, the Holiday Inn. That's not the right name, but the one on Van Ness, which isn't there anymore in San Francisco. Anyway, that picture's from that time. And I was very fortunate because I was born in 62. Both my parents got to meet Baba. I was left behind. And that's a whole other story, but I want to focus on Miss Craske. She was my godmother. So she was really a great godmother because she would call every Sunday and talk about God. And I think that's what a godmother really needs to do. So every Sunday at 10:10, she was very punctual, as anyone who knew her knows. And she would call and my father would talk to her first for about 10 minutes. And then I would run down for my homework or practicing and talk to her for about 10 or 15 minutes. She would always remind me to do my homework and my practicing for God. And then my mother would talk for her the rest of the time. And we would see her a few times a year. We talked to her every Sunday, but we saw her a few times a year. The Baba's birthday party for the dancers would be at our house, which was in Garden City, Long Island. But Miss Craske hosted it. So she got to invite all the dancers. And I probably could write a whole book just on the parties. But she would sit in a specially designated chair for her. And we would have, she would tell her stories. And my father and Donald Mahler had both taken films of Baba in 62 in India. We would see the films of Baba. I mean, it was really cool to grow up seeing Baba films in your living room. But also one thing that Miss Craske did that I think we call her the dancers and I call her Miss Craske. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing this necklace today because this was given to me after Miss Craske passed away. It was her necklace. I don't know if you can see it. It's blue. And actually I was wearing it in India.
There you go.
I was wearing it in India I'm trying to remember what year that was, 91. And my birthday, I was having my birthday in India, and Mani gave me a pair of earrings to match, which was so sweet. So anyway, so what happened was I lost my train of thought. We would see her a couple of times. You can interrupt if I lose my train of thought again. We would see her a couple of times during the year at the Baba birthday party. And also there was a Thanksgiving for all the Baba dancers too. That was in Spring Valley, which some lesser known Baba lovers, the Rossins, Buddy and Susan Rossin, they were part of the dancer group. Most people don't know them. They were wonderful potters. I don't have any other pottery right handy, but they were wonderful potters. And we would have Thanksgiving there too. And Ms. Craske would be there too. And when I was about 20, Ms. Craske asked me to learn certain pieces on the flute. I mean, I know everybody knows me for playing Begin the Beguine, but on the flute, but that was because Ms. Craske had me learn it to play at these Baba birthday parties. So at first we'd always have the Baba birthday parties in February, you know, for Baba's actual birthday. But then as it got harder for Ms. Craske to travel, we would have them in June. So the weather was nicer. She figured that Baba's birthday could be anytime. So then we had a backyard and people could come then. And Viola Marks, who I think is on the chat right now on the Zoom, that's where we met, was at one of these Baba birthday parties when I was 10 and she was 16, and we were playing, and her siblings, and we were playing pool downstairs. But so Miss Craske, oh my gosh, there's so many things but to say about her, but I was so honored to have her as my godmother. And one of the things that I remember her telling me, she told me a lot of things, and I always had to pull my hair back. And I sent in a picture of me and Miss Craske, which was a very unusual picture because my hair wasn't pulled back. And she always thought, she always had the dancers and everyone pull their hair back because she thought we were all going to go blind if our hair was in our face. And I really don't understand how I got by without pulling my hair back this one day. You'll see the picture later. But anyway, she was, so she was very, also she told me, this is what she told me. She said, don't worry about being good. Just knock off one of those O's and just worry about being God. I love that. Don't worry about being good. Knock off one of the O's and just worry about being God. So I was also very, you know, when I didn't go to the center until I was 15. My mom was too worried that well, I know you're not supposed to worry, but she was really concerned that it was going to be different from when she was there without Baba present physically there. But we started going when I was 15. I saw Miss Craske down there, and then I went to the center all the time in my college years and after college. And I was really, really fortunate. I was there during the earthquake in San Francisco. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I was about 27. And I was there, I was delayed. I was there for a week. Actually, Darwin Shaw was the one who told me that there was an earthquake going on. And I was there for a week. And she was basically in her bed. It was a few months before she passed. And she would just have me come over and play flute for her. And you know, she would take out, she'd have someone bring her pocketbook, and she would just take out a few dollars here and there. Like, it was just random amounts, like $7 here, $5 there, every day, like a certain net. And it ends up being, because I only thought I was staying at the center for 2 days. It ended up, when I counted all the money at the end, she said, you know, take yourself to lunch. I mean, it's nowhere to take yourself to lunch when you're on the center, but you don't have transportation. But anyway, and I counted the money, and it came to the exact dollar amount that I needed for the rest of my stay, that being at the center that week. So that was a Baba thing. And Miss Craske just absolutely adored my mom. And my mom and Tex had danced in Oklahoma together. And so Miss Craske really loved it when I played Oh, What a Beautiful Morning, because that reminded her of my mom. So I used to play that for her too. And the last time I saw her was in December of 89. I got to see her a lot that year. I was at the center a lot, but I got, and I said goodbye to her, and I walked across some of you know that I was the instrument, the surrogate mom of the Youth Sahabas. Baba used me to start the Youth Sahabas. And so I walked from Happy House across to Dilruba. I said goodbye to Miss Craske and literally went right across the road and talked to Jane about starting the Youth Sahabas. It was almost like, you know, a chapter, another chapter closing, another chapter beginning. And when the first Youth Sahabas, which happened in 91, we were pretty random at that point about picking, just signing cabin mates. My dog's making a little bit of noise, I apologize. But so anyway, my girls, I was staying at I was a counselor and I was staying at the Hermitage, and I had 7 girls at the Happy House, and we had no idea about this, but 2 of them, and actually Michelle Schaefer's on the call, I think, and her stepdaughter Nora was one of my girls. Yeah, exactly. And she just said that Nora was one of the girls, and Nora and another girl, who many of you know, Sophia, she dances with Viola Marx. They were both pre-professional ballet dancers. And so it just worked out, like Baba kind of orchestrated this, or maybe Miss Craske helped orchestrate this, that they would be practicing their ballet every day in Happy House in Miss Craske's old living room during the first Yutza harvest. It was such a wonderful gift. And when I went to India, so from then, after talking to Jane about Yutza harvest, I went to India. Miss Craske was still alive. And for some reason, there was a Dooney. For some reason, Mansouri and Miss Craske were really close. And Mansouri, for some reason, gave me a stick for Miss Craske to put in the Dooney. So I was like, okay, Baba, I'm not gonna make up something to put in on this stick for Dooney. So just whatever is supposed to be on the stick for Miss Craske, this is Miss Craske's stick, and it's going into the Dooney, and you just put whatever it's supposed to be for Miss Craske. So then I came back well, I flew into New York. I was living in San Francisco. So Baba always directed people to go directly home. But my flight was canceled going from New York to San Francisco. So I called my parents, and they came and picked me up, and I went to there. And the next day I was supposed to go on a plane, and I got to the airport and was canceled again. So we went back, and as soon as we got back home on Saturday, we got a call from Ann Conlon. See, it was Baba delaying me. He wanted us all together to find the news that Miss Craske was in the hospital and she was going to be going soon. So the Dooney where Mansouri had me put in a stick for Baba was actually the last Dooney before she ended up going into the hospital. So, it's just interesting how Baba orchestrates all these things. So we found out that news, and then of course my plane did take off the next day, going to San Francisco. So that's, I think, why Baba delayed me, so my parents and I could all be together when we found out the news. And she was just, I don't know. Someone please tell me when it's noon Eastern Standard Time, because I have 3 more Zooms I have to get to today. I'm sorry.
You're doing well.
Do you know what time it is right now? Anybody?
Yeah, it's 11:50.
What time is it?
11:52.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Well, I don't have to talk the whole time of it. All right, wonderful. So also, when that time in India, so it was January 90, that same time when Mansouri, right after I said goodbye to Miss Craske and we were starting the Yutza harvest and all that, I also got a melody in my head, which ended up being Mirabad Morning, which was dedicated to Miss Craske. And I think it's going to be played later. You can also find it on YouTube. But I really feel like Miss Craske was so much a part of that recording session too. Nothing was really easy with Miss Craske, and she always caused a little trouble. And there was definitely a little trouble on that recording session. But anyway, I definitely felt her spirit. And also growing up, we used to go to, a couple of times during the year, we would also go into New York City and see Miss Craske. And I think she shared her stories at Baba House a couple of times that we went to see, but we'd have dinner with her. And sometimes there would be other Mandali who came in from India, Adi and Merji, and we would all have dinner. Remember once we were all at a French restaurant together. That was lovely. And just, there were so many lessons from Miss Craske. I feel like she knew parts of me that other people didn't know. Possibly even like my past lives, or I don't know, but I just know that she was very fiery, and she always stuck up for me too. So, and I just feel really honored to have her as my role model and namesake. And I guess I'm probably going to just open it up for questions if people have questions about my growing up with Miss Craske.
Does anybody want to say anything? You can unmute if you have a question for Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. It is so good to hear you. So good to see you.
Yes,
Thank you for sharing.
and I have to say too, Margaret,
Thank you.
Margaret
Hi.
Bernstein. Hi. And my daughter are both goddaughters of Margaret Craske. So they're god sisters. And Margaret Bernstein taught my
Yeah.
daughter to play the flute, got her interested in that. And now I have to put a plug in. Margaret Bernstein has a new CD out, and you can hear Margaret's beautiful singing voice, not just the flute.
Oh, thank you, Janet. I love all of you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah, there's
that
a
was
wonderful
wonderful.
picture. Oh, thank you, Janet. Well, I'll just say also there was a wonderful picture of the other Janet Fowle, who just shared her Margaret, who's my god sister, and me and Miss Craske. So 3 Margarets together when Margaret Fowles was a baby. I don't know what happened to that picture. Janet
I'm
Fowles, you probably
looking
have
for
it.
it.
It's in some.
It's
Yeah.
somewhere in my house.
And I have some other pictures of me. Yeah, I have some other pictures of when I was a baby and Miss Craske holding me, which I'll get out at some point. And I mean, there's just other stories too. I remember once I was in the hospital and I was really, really upset. And so I called Miss Craske because I wasn't allowed to play the flute. That's why I was upset. And so I called Miss Craske and she started telling me mystery stories, a mystery story over the phone to cheer me up. But also I want to say for those who don't know, some of her favorite things were Snoopy. She absolutely loved Snoopy. She loved mangoes and she loved mysteries. So, and also, I don't know if she's on the chat today, but Diana Byers she has, she's one of Miss Craske's students, and she has a wonderful company, New York City Theater Ballet, I think it's called now. And she got grant money and they did a wonderful, wonderful tribute to Miss Craske last October 18th. Such a great tribute with Donald Mahler's choreography, Miss Craske's choreography. Also, this is just a side note, but I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Fame, the original Fame. But the original Fame, the main dancer, I think her name's, well, anyway, the main dancer in that movie, she was a student of Miss Craske's for a long time, like 8 or 10 years. And she actually performed at this tribute. So it's just, Miss Craske has ties everywhere with the dancers too. And so my mom came to Baba through Miss Craske. And I mean, there's just so many wonderful stories of my mom too. My mom's stories. I'm going to publish a book at some point. And yeah, before my mom passed, we spent every day making sure her stories were correct and put together. And yeah, and just so many stories. But my mom got to perform for Baba twice in San Francisco with other dancers, and also in at the barn, the old barn at Myrtle Beach. And so yeah, my Miss Craske had showed a picture of my mom to Baba when she was a little girl, way before my mom knew Baba. So there were so many beautiful connections. So does anybody else have any questions before I go zooming off? And it's so wonderful. I've seen that a lot of people are on this call today. I know my son Julian's on. I saw that Mariah and a lot of my friends are on. So nice to see you, both Janet's and Viola.
We're so happy you're here, Margaret.
Anybody? Oh, thank you.
Yes, it's so good to see you again.
So thank you so much.
It's getting close to noon.
So before I go,
yeah,
I might have to go. Is there any last questions before I go? I apologize. I have 3 professional networking Zooms today that were set up, and it's not like I could change them. So I'm sorry, I'm going to miss everybody else sharing today. But Anyway,
It will be
I'll
on-
just tell you one
it'll be
more
there.
story. What was that, Ruth?
It
Oh,
will,
I was just
it's being recorded, so it'll be on YouTube, on the YouTube channel.
wonderful.
Yes. Go ahead, tell your story, sweetheart. It's noon.
That's so wonderful. Thank you.
Baba time.
Yeah, oh, it's noon. I'll get off. Well, I'll just say, yeah. So also, like I said, you can see the Mirabad morning song that I wrote for Miss Craske, or that Baba wrote through me for Miss Craske. And it has a beautiful picture of Miss Craske on the picture of the YouTube channel. You can just Google it, Mirabad morning. I think it might be shown today. But the story is Miss Craske always needed to have a Baba birthday cake for Baba. And one year she asked Tex to bring the cake. And Tex didn't know it was the Baba birthday cake. So it was just a cake. And so we had to scramble around and put some strawberries on it for the B, the letter B. And so we put the strawberries on, and then she says, well, you can't eat those strawberries now. You can't cut into the strawberries. You have to save that because it's we weren't allowed to cut anything that had Baba's name on it, even if it was on a cake. We weren't allowed to throw, Miss Craske wouldn't let us throw any picture of Baba, even if it was a teeny little picture on a magazine. So I had to cut out all the pictures of Baba on like all the glows or everything. Like I've all like teeny pictures of Baba everywhere. And
calendars
is that calendars, exactly.
calendar photos.
She was, yeah, exactly. She was great because she didn't ever tell me that Baba was God. I had to figure that out on my own when I was 12 at summer camp. She just did things very methodically, as she did with everything else. With her dancing, it was always methodical in her teaching, but she was very methodical about being my godmother too. First, it was a beautiful picture of Baba that I still have. And then she gave me a Baba children's book, and then it was another Baba children's book. So she was just very methodical, and I'm just so grateful. And I'm grateful. I'm so happy to be with all of you today. And I guess I need to go to my next Zoom meeting.
You know,
and thank you so much. And I hope I get to see.
Margaret, someone asked if it's possible to do another Zoom with you sometime about the details of your parents' story and life, if you'd be willing.
I would love that. Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
Great.
With my parents and Miss Craske. Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. I would love that. And thank you. So lots of love. Thank you for all being here. I love all of you. And I hope that I get to see you all in person soon. Thank you so much. Lots of J Babas to all of you. Thank you. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Margaret. Jai Baba, your energy is just always the same. So much love for Baba. Thank you.
Bye, Margaret.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love. See you soon.
All right. Well, I think what I'll do next is show this short video or slideshow of Margaret, just photos of Margaret, and just to kind of bring that wonderful image of Baba's dancer to us. I want to thank everybody who has taken these photos, everybody who has put them on the internet so that we can have them. And also I wanted to thank Buzz Connor for this beautiful song from a poem that Monty had written to Margaret, or about Margaret, I should say. And so this is it. Jai Baba.
Dancer dancing to his word, footsteps winging as a bird, abandoned flight of blazing light, whirling in divine romance. Dancer, dancer, dance his dance. heart in which all music has its start. From creation's soundless singer to every gesture, every glance, dance, dancer, dance, dance. In the power of his smile, you may want to rest a while, but keep on dancing, dancer, please not to rush. His dance can never cease, not to rush. His dance can never cease. Dancer dancing to his word, footsteps winging as a bird, abandoned flight of blazing light, whirling in divine romance. Dancer, dancer, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, his dance, dance his dance, his dance, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, his dance, not to rush his dance, can never cease, dance his dance, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, his dance, dance his dance, his dance, oh dance, his dance, his dance, his dance, his dance, not to rush his dance, can never cease, never cease.
Sorry, Jay Baba. Took me a minute to get through there. What I'd like to do, as I said, is maybe start with Carmen. I think Carmen's still here. And see if she would like to share first. So Carmen, I'd ask if you could unmute yourself. Do you see where the unmute is? There
Yes,
you go.
I got it. Got it.
Thank you, dear. So happy.
Yeah. Oh, that was wonderful. That was a fantastic video.
Thank you, Jay Pava.
Oh, I nearly cried. I really cried. Yes. Thank you, Jay Baba. Okay, so now, what am I supposed to do now? Give a little story of something? I can't hear you for some reason.
Well, I
Oh, yes. Oh, good.
Myself so I can hear you. Yes,
Okay.
the story would be so beautiful. Anything, any story, more than one.
Okay, there's one that comes to mind, which is so funny. It's quite short, and we were in class, you know, trying to be our perfected selves with Miss Craske, which is impossible. Anyway, let me see, where was I? My memory is, if I get interrupted, let me see, what was it I was going to say? Oh, yes, about running around backwards. Oh, she said, get up, get straight, get your posture. You don't want to be in a back bend running backwards. Did you get that? Did you hear it?
Yes,
good, funny. Good. That was so funny. We all giggled about that. And let me see what else she said. Oh, there was another one, beautiful. Oh, I had a wonderful experience when I was in her class. And I think I shared with this one with some of you people, I don't know who it was. And she made us do a step, you know, of dance, once across on, you know, one side of the room, across diagonally. And then we were trying to remember one single correction and do it and concentrated on it, you know? So then we did it on the other side the same way, concentrate on that one correction. So we did our very best. Then she said, now, please dance it with the music, let go. And you know what? When I came to do that, I felt as if I was not on the ground. I was floating. I don't know what it was. Baba lifted me off the ground. And it's the truth. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, I was not on the ground. I was off the ground. I was floating. It was unbelievable. Well, anyway, that's my one story.
Well, you know, I just wonder if anybody that is here would like to ask anything, Carmen. I'll just tell everyone to feel free to open up if they have a question or would like to ask Carmen a question.
Good.
But, you know, yeah, I just wonder, as far as Baba, I know you heard about Mayor Baba from Miss Craske, is that right?
Yes, I did. Actually, it's not true. I heard about her from Peter Saul.
Yes.
You know, and I said, oh, he showed me a picture. And I said, oh, what a lovely smile. But that was as far as it went. I was not drawn.
Yes.
And so anyway, how did it happen? Oh, yes. He said, well, wait until we used to argue. Peter and I used to argue when we worked out together. And I said, well, I did my Craske exams. And he said, well, wait until you go to my teacher, Miss Craske, in New York. And I did. And he was right. Of course he was right. Of course he was right. And it was through her that I came to Baba. I was going through a very difficult time. Peter and I split up. I was in a company that I didn't want to be in, and the only thing that kept me going was Miss Craske. She kept me going, and she told me about Baba, and she said, "Have you heard about him?" And I said, "Yes, I have." "Okay, are you all right?" "Yes, I can't hear you."
Yes, thank you. I'm all
Okay,
right. For
okay.
some reason, the screen fell. I think one of my cats did it.
"Oh, your pussycat, I'm a cat lover. Oh, you naughty, naughty, naughty."
Busy morning. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, I forget where I was now, but she saw what was happening to me, and that I was very, very unhappy. And she said she took me into her dressing room where she got changed for class, and she said, "Are you all right, Carmen?" She could tell I was, something was wrong. So I told her, I said, I don't know what to do. And she said, "Have you heard of Meher Baba?" And I said, "Well, yes, I did, from Peter, but I wasn't interested." There we are. It took her to draw me. Actually, it was really Baba who was drawing me. It was really Baba. But Miss Craske was the link who really got me there. So that's my story.
Beautiful.
Oh, gosh. Oh, so long ago. Well, I was 25 or something. So I've been with Baba a long time, and he's never failed me. Never, never failed me. And he said he would never. So, yeah. Oh, Baba, Baba. So this has been wonderful being with you and having that video, and it's just, it made me cry. Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. And Elizabeth, you have your hand up. Is there something you wanted to say to Carmen?
I wanted to ask a question about Margaret. And
Yes.
I was wondering if she ever talked about the relationship between spirituality or God and dance, and what she said about that.
No, but she how can I say, it came through her. She never talked about it. No, spirituality. No, she didn't. Did you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, not at all, darling. Not at all. She was spirituality, so she didn't talk about it. What, sorry? Excuse me.
On his phone.
A call?
3
calls on my phone.
Same person.
Okay, maybe it's the same person. Sorry,
No.
we got interrupted. Yes. And where were we?
Well, she was just asking about Margaret bringing up spirituality. Melinda also.
Never. Not
Yeah.
with me. But Baba, yes. Baba. Yes, but not. She take me out to lunch and we talk about Baba, and she said, how are you doing with Baba? She was just like, wonderful.
Carmen, I have a question. It's Melinda.
Hello, Melinda.
Hi, we've met a couple times. I also study with Miss Craske much later in her life.
Oh, how nice. You look familiar.
Yeah, we spent some time at the center together. I always think about the obedience part that we had with Miss Craske, and that in class, like she taught us to obey.
Wonderful.
In a certain way, and I always connect that aspect of our dancing with her to Baba.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she didn't say it. Do you have thoughts?
Discipline is such a obedience. Yes, it's part of your discipline, of your learning. And she didn't just teach dance, but she did give us what we needed. Discipline was one of them. You can't just, nothing can exist. A picture will fall apart if it hasn't got any discipline. And a dancer will fall apart if she hasn't got any discipline. Everything, discipline has to be there. We have to learn it as children. And, you know, if we don't, we're lost. If we don't learn it as children, you know, we won't have it. And it's very, very important to guide you, you know. Yeah. And it's strong in dance. Oh boy. But I got it all from her. Yes.
So
Jay
beautiful.
Baba. Jay Baba.
Jay
Jay
Baba.
Baba to you, sweet.
And if you raise your hand at any time, if something comes up and you want to talk about it.
I can't think of anything. My brain's gone dumb with all that's going on. But if I do, you know, I will.
Well, Susan, it looks like Susan Smith also wanted to say something. Go ahead, Susan.
Good. Good, Susan.
Oh, hi. We've never
Hello,
met
Susan.
before. Hello, dear.
Oh, hello.
So delightful to hear your voice. You remind me of my friend Viola's voice, always bubbly.
Oh, did you have an English accent, Viola?
Out of the way there.
Viola? Mark?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think she has an English
No.
accent.
Okay, but I remind you of her. But
Oh,
I've got a very, don't you think I've got a very English accent?
yes, you sort of do. I wanted to know where you are and also what years was that you danced with Margaret
Ah,
in her company?
it was 1962 when I went to New York, either 1961 or 62. And it was through Peter Saul. He said, you got to go to my teacher in New York. I arrived in New York and I was in her class the next day, terrified. There we are, obedience and discipline. But, oh, I studied with her all my life, really. And yeah. And when I stopped dancing, she allowed me to watch her teach because I became a teacher when I gave up dancing.
Wow.
And I was allowed, she allowed me to do so many things. Yeah, can't remember the other things. But, oh, wonderful. She was my spiritual mother, okay? Yes, I that's how I saw her. My teacher, my spiritual mother too.
That sounds wonderful. Sounds like you were with her like for 30 or more years.
Oh, I was with her all my life until she passed away.
Yeah, that was the 90s, I think. She passed away.
It was the 90s, yes, it was. But I visited her there, of course. I went to New York every 2 weeks. I had off. I'd be in her class. I mean, I just, you know, she was my most valuable, how can I say, spiritual mother.
Yeah.
We were very close.
And a great storyteller, because she used to tell stories in Saroja Library on the center.
Oh, lovely. Yes. Yes.
Fabulous storyteller.
I think I got one when she talked about the mad dog.
Oh, yeah.
That was her favorite story when I went to the center. Oh, she had such a wit about it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, what a wit and humor. Yes. Great humor. Very English, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. Oh, she took me in as a friend, but she remained my teacher until the last day.
Are you still in New York then?
No, I live in, I'm at the moment, I'm in Galveston. I have an apartment in Houston.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, but, you know, I'm in Galveston and it's not as bad as Houston.
Okay.
So I've got my husband. I've been with him a long time. We never got married, you know, but in Texas, if you're together a certain amount of time, you're married.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Somebody told me that. So that was nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, wonderful. And so wonderful that you can be with us today.
Thank you so much. And I've forgotten your name already. See, my memory is terrible.
Don't worry. My name's Ruth Appel. It's a nice
Ruth.
round name. Apple.
Oh, I see. All one word. Ruth Appel.
Ruth
How
Appel.
lovely. How lovely. That's most unusual. That's
Yeah.
lovely, Ruth Appel.
Thank you,
And
Carmen.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad.
I
Again,
had a wonderful time.
well,
I
don't
shall
go
remember it.
so far because we have, I think we have Edward Hinkle up next.
Oh, Ed Hinkle. Yes.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I'm gonna-
great. Can I watch him from my...
Yes.
Yes, good. How lovely.
And you can speak with him if you like, but I'm going to
Okay,
ask.
just say a quick hello.
Hi, Carmen.
Hey, hi, Ed. I think of you often. There you are. Can you see
Oh,
me?
yes, I see your mouth.
Okay. Let's
Oh,
get
now
the
I see your
then.
eyes.
Oh,
Well, we
okay.
can't see
Now
your
I
whole
see
face
you.
either, Ed. So why don't you get your camera a little better?
What's that?
We're just seeing the cut. There you go.
Oh, there,
Oh, God.
there. That's
Oh, God.
great. That's great. Yes,
Well, I'm-
Ed, I remember the time you were choreographing something. Oh, what was it? Your first choreography piece to Taco Bell.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I first met you. Yes, isn't that a long time ago? And
Oh,
then
my God.
we have seen us, and we have been together in Myrtle Beach lately.
Yes,
not too
yes,
long
yes.
ago. But now I'm ensconced in Galveston. And are you okay?
I'm so glad to hear your sharing. I hope someday that I can feel as free as you do to share like that.
Oh, you will.
I was talking to Wendy Haynes Connors the other day,
Yes.
how difficult it is for me to talk about Miss Craske,
Mhm.
because I feel like anything I say diminishes who she was
Oh,
to me.
I don't think so, Ed.
I think that
It's not
she was
true.
she was so completely Baba's that
Yes,
she was Baba,
I
and
know.
and
Yes,
she
she was.
she always pointed to Baba. She
Yes,
never pointed us to her at
that's
all.
right. That's right. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so I find that I don't know where to begin.
You just go
begin.
from where you are. I don't know where to begin. I
Well,
just go from where I am. You know what I mean, Ed? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
just
I
as
mean,
it comes to you, as it
it
comes to you.
it was so much that she ignited the spark of Baba in me, that
Yes,
she was like a conduit in that way.
yes, yes. I can see that.
And when I came to her class, it was because I had given up on finding a teacher, and I knew there was things I needed to learn. And the minute I went to her, that was it. There was nothing more. But I don't want to take up people's time now, because someday I will feel more free to speak about it. But it was so good to hear Carmen. Oh, Carmen's talking, but I can't hear her.
Yeah, she's muted right now. Let's see.
Unmute. There we go. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, because I was put on muted for some reason. I have no idea why. But now I'm back again. Good.
Good.
It's lovely to see you, Ed.
Oh, same here. I just remember you in class. It was just such a privilege to watch you working with Miss Craske, and her working on you was such an
Yes.
education.
Yes.
It
Yes.
meant a great deal to the rest of the students.
Yes, I'm sure. That's lovely. I'm now 82.
Whoa!
So, I can remember quite a lot. I can remember all that back stuff, but I don't remember what I ate yesterday. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. I look forward to seeing you at the center again.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so, Ed. I have a partner who cannot travel now.
Oh,
So I may not get there, you know, may not get there. But
Yeah.
anyway, anyone that you see at the center,
hmm
tell them I give them my love.
Oh, good. I will.
Yes, who knows me? There are a number of people probably. And Jay Baba.
Jay Baba.
And
Edward,
lovely to speak
oh,
to you, Ed.
before
Same
you
here.
go, Edward, I just wondered, your connection to Baba was who?
Miss Craske.
Me? Oh, yes.
Miss Craske.
I see.
I was in class one day. I was leaving class, and her dressing room door was open, and there was a picture of Baba on the wall in her dressing room. And I was immediately drawn to the picture. It was a picture of Baba in the lagoon cabin. And I just asked one of the other dancers, who was that? And they said I needed to talk to Miss Craske about it. And I finally screwed up my courage to go up to her chair after class. And then she said, "Well, you come to see me." She always didn't talk about Baba in class. And so that was it. It was like a perfect fit. I was ripe for it. I just fell into Baba's arms. But I maybe talk to somebody else.
Okay, but it's just so beautiful, when Baba said that Margaret Craske was his link. She was the link here in the West.
Mhm.
So it's always just so astounding to hear these beautiful stories, Edward. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that you did just share.
Yeah, and Melinda's touching on the idea of obedience was so powerful in our lives with Miss Craske, and I'm so grateful to have that discipline, because it was so difficult for me. But boy, oh boy, I'm so lucky now. So thank you.
Happy birthday, Edward.
Uh-oh.
Is it your birthday today?
Carmen, I was 75 yesterday.
Dear Baba, dear Baba.
Happy birthday. So beautiful. Thank you, Rosalie. Jay Baba. Thank you, Edward. Well, I'm just looking, I think, again, I was trying to think about how to do this because it's difficult. And I thought maybe I would ask Kathy Riley, she's a C name, so I'm going for the C's now, if she could unmute and maybe share something with us. And again, anyone who wants to put up their hand, feel free.
Oh, thank you. This has been wonderful. Just because somebody was asking, I think, Carmen, you were the assistant ballet mistress at the Houston Ballet Company, yes? For years? I think that's what a question was being asked about that.
Okay. Yeah, I just had to unmute myself. I've been unmuted, so I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you were the assistant ballet directress of the Houston Ballet Company, yes?
Yes, that's right. Good.
Oh, okay, good. And some of your dancers won prizes. I remember hearing that.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
Some of your main students and dancers won prizes. I remember watching the Houston Ballet on TV with Kitty one night, and we were so happy to hear that your company
won. Yes, Jamie Parker, yes. Now
Yes.
I remember. Now I remember.
Yeah. Kitty and I were very happy for you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. So
thank you. I remember that. Thank you.
So I would love to share from the just import what Margaret, Miss Craske, of course, the dancers call her Miss Craske, and we were privileged to be allowed to call her Margaret. She didn't seem to mind. Those of us who were
you're 50,
her,
60 years old, so
it was
it's
a
not
different,
an 11.
different
It's
role.
not an, it's not an 11-year-old. You're not an 11-year-old.
Yes. So I wanted to just say that it was so wonderful to be around her, and she had such a fabulous sense of humor. That's one of the aspects, that beautiful British humor. And one day she came into the kitchen and she just she put her head back and she started howling. And, I decided, why not join in? So I began howling, and we howled a duet together for a few minutes in the Dilruba kitchen. And then she stopped and looked kind of at me with a twinkle, and she said, "We must have known each other when we were wolves." And she'd also go through, morph into cat talk. So there was meowing going on sometimes also. And that was lots of fun. One day, she just went up on her tiptoes while I was preparing lunch and started dancing around as though she was a fairy godmother, and sort of tapping me and tapping a few others in the room like she was, I don't know, sprinkling fairy dust on us. So that was a special moment. And the biggest, most wonderful contribution to me personally was that when I came to work at Dilruba, she was very straightforward with me when she saw that I had decided I was going to become a gopi and devote my life to serving Kitty and Elizabeth and serving her and leave my old life behind. And she, she just sat down next to me and she said, "Well, this place is a nunnery. This is a house filled with old women. You're young, you're vital. You should be out in the world doing what you like to do. What do you like to do?" And I said, "Well, I have been teaching music and I love to sing." She says, "Yes, that's what you should do. Don't be afraid of the world. Go out, teach your music and sing your songs, and that will be where you will find Baba. This is a nunnery. This is a house filled with old women." And she kept talking about what kind of music did I like to sing and what music did I like to teach. She was so loving and so solicitous, and it really made a profound influence. I began going back to teaching because I realized, I felt, even though I was with these fabulous women, that I was missing something that was a creative part of me. And she was the influence to help me go back into the world. And she said, "And you can bring Baba into that work. And then others will be drawn to Baba through you," which actually, I'm sure all of us have had that happen in our lives. So I feel such a tremendous thankfulness to Margaret for that. Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. Ruth, could I add a tiny little portion to that?
Please do, Janet.
So, I dug out this old, notebook I kept from 1977, I think. Anyway, and when Adi was visiting the center, he said that the Mandali would say that Baba was the only Westerner in early days who understood Baba because she understood his humor. And to echo, so understanding Baba's humor was important. And so one of the things that she would often do when we were helping out, I helped out a bit too in the 70s. And when things got a little too heavy, Margaret always added a little, fairy dust to the moment, to quote Kathy. So there was just this little moment I wrote down. So Margaret's on the porch where she loved to sit. She loved the outdoors, she loved the sun. And Kitty was in her little office. Many of us would go in there, of course, for a book or a problem. So Kitty was saying, "Oh, is there someone there to see me?" And then in Cockney, which I hope I can do, Margaret answers, "Yes, I need an interview with Miss Divey. I've spots all over me head, all over me head. What am I to do?" Later, Margaret says, also in a humorous tone, "My message to the world is pull up your socks. So Edward and the others that got the discipline, we often got the humor. So, and Margaret was great at just adding a little lightness. Of course, it could also be serious. So that's all. I just wanted to add that to the festivities.
That's wonderful. Well, I'll be back to you because I think you probably have a few more things of memories of Margaret. All right. Dana, are you ready to speak and say some things about Margaret and Baba?
Sure.
Say Baba.
I didn't know about this meeting. I'm thrilled that you're doing this. Margaret is such an incredibly important part of my life. And as Edward and Carmen said, she was a conduit to Baba for me, absolutely. First time I met Margaret, I was very new to Baba. And she came to stay in the house that I was staying in with the people who told me about Baba. And the first time I remember her talking, she was talking about Narina over breakfast, I think, the next morning. And she was describing the point where Baba told Narina that Christ was buried up in the mountains of Harvan, or anyway, he gestured to where Christ had been buried in India. And Narina had an armful of flowers and she threw them at Baba's feet. And I didn't quite understand the point of the story, so I said, Margaret, I don't understand. Why did she throw them at Baba's feet? And Margaret looked at me and said, oh, I see you have a little bit of that in you too. Oh, well, never mind. Baba will take care of that. And that was one of my first zings from Margaret, and I was completely smitten. I was one of the lucky ones who worked for Margaret in Happy House when she came down to live in Myrtle Beach. And I got to observe some fabulous things. And one very interesting thing that I observed once was, as Carmen said, dancers would come down to see her, and sometimes dancers would come and get a little class in the living room. Anyway, this girl called, I didn't know her name. Margaret was in the room in the kitchen. I was in the living room with the phone, or in the next room from Margaret, talking to this girl. And I was encouraging her to come. She said she wanted to come to the center and she wanted to see Margaret. And I thought, how wonderful. This is what the dancers do. They come down to see Margaret, and I should encourage her. And from the next room, I'm hearing Margaret say, don't encourage her. Don't encourage her. I've not identified the person, Margaret. She says, don't encourage her. So I immediately backtracked and just, I don't remember. I might have said Margaret wasn't feeling that well, or it wasn't a good time to come, which was probably true. Almost 3 years later, this same woman, who I have no idea who it was, but I know it was the same woman, called again. And I remembered that Margaret had said, don't encourage her. So I was trying to discourage her from coming. And from the next room, Margaret says, encourage her to come. So I quickly changed directions again, encouraged the girl to come. And it turned out I was the person, by chance really, was the person who met her at the airport, brought her into the center. The minute she crossed the center gate, the minute she got into the center, she completely fell for Baba. Her interest before had been in Margaret. This time she was totally in love with Baba. She got to see Margaret, but her focus was 100% on Baba. She was just floating on air the whole time she was there. And I thought, Margaret had a sixth sense. She did get to see Margaret several times, and she loved Margaret, but her focus was 100% on Baba. And I got to watch this thing develop over several years. And I thought, Margaret I don't even know if she knew who the person was when she was doing that, but Baba gave her some extra material. And then on Margaret's humor, well, there were so many fabulous instances of that, but one I remember, we were sitting at the table on the porch at Dilruba, Kitty, Elizabeth, and Margaret. And I can't remember who else was at the table, but the three of them were there definitely. And they'd been talking about the Sufis. And so at one point, Elizabeth said, she looked at Margaret and she said, Margaret, I don't think we make very good guides, do you? And Margaret said, well, I don't know. I know the area around Carnegie Hall quite well. Those are just a couple of stories. I mean, there are many, but maybe that's it for the moment.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I also cried or felt like crying while you were showing the slideshow. It was so beautiful. The
So
love, Margaret was just all love. She sparked that love in others. She had it. Oh, I do have there's one little thing I want to say about her. There was a man in the ashram. She told this story, so this is not something I observed, but it was a story she told. There was a man in the ashram who took a shine to her, must have fallen a little bit in love with her, and said, Baba, isn't Margaret beautiful? And Baba said, she would tell the story. No, she's not beautiful. And then she would stop. And she told it once and stopped there. And I said, Margaret, what else did he say? She said, but she has great charm. So what would you rather have with Baba? Or she was beautiful too. You know that.
She was beautiful.
You'd have to drag out that, you'd have to drag that comment out of her. She wouldn't automatically tell what he said. But you know, she gave Baba a little dancing lesson. That's in her book.
You can share that story. I love that story.
Well, I just remember she said, she said Baba had the most perfect spine. And she said, and I've seen some good spines. And she said, I just taught him 1, 2, 3, hop, 1, 2, 3, hop around the courtyard of, I think it was where they were in Europe, in France somewhere. And she said it was like flying. He was flying.
And didn't she name him Thomas?
That's right. That's right. For student Thomas.
There was, I just saw a letter, I think, that she had written to Dear Thomas.
When she missed having her dance, teaching dance, she once in a while would use the material at hand, us who were working there in Happy House, poor thing. But I never was a ballet student, but my sister was a very serious ballet student, so I'd watched a lot of ballet. But she gave me a couple of bar classes, probably 5 or 6 of them. And I have to say, I was in 100% heaven during those classes. The focus was so, my mind was blank. It was just totally on what she was telling me. And I saw how Baba used her to bring people to Baba through the dance. Because it was just, there was no distraction. It was just a complete meditation on what you were doing. It was wonderful, wonderful experience to have. Jai Baba. So wonderful to see and hear Carmen and Edward. And Edward, if I can talk about Margaret, you certainly can.
Maybe we'll egg him on just a little more today, poor Edward, but we could try. Tina's been so patient. She's had her hand up. Please, Tina, speak to us.
Yes, I wanted to tell, for those of you who haven't heard it, Susan Paul's Baba's story, which involves Margaret very closely. And so Susan Paul, I hope she's not here today, because otherwise she could tell her own story. But anyway, I'll tell it for her. Susan Paul always wanted to be a dancer. And her mother was just against it. She's like, it's crazy, couldn't make a living at it. But Susan kept it up as a little girl. And so her mother finally got her a subscription to Ballet Magazine. And in that magazine, she saw an ad for Miss Craske's dance school. And she begged her mother to take her there, but her mother refused. And so she had this burning desire to be a ballerina all her life. And she grew up and she went into the medical profession. She was a nurse and then she became an acupuncturist. And she had a daughter. And the daughter wanted to be a ballerina too. So Susan sent her to study with Miss Craske. And could you mute Kathy? Kathy, yeah, thank you. So the daughter, Susan got her lessons with Miss Craske, and she would stand in the back and she was just too intimidated to talk to Miss Craske. And so she went on, the daughter grew up, she never spoke to Miss Craske. but she had that attraction. And she became this acupuncturist, and she had no interest in religion or anything spiritual. She was just into making money. And one day, someone called her and said, I got this call. This was another acupuncturist, and said, I got this call from somebody in Pune, and it's in India. It's a smaller city, and his uncle had a stroke, and they want someone to come over there and treat him every day with acupuncture. And he said, I really don't want to do it, but I'm just asking other acupuncturists because they said, name your own price. They're very wealthy. And so Susan said, well, I'm not going to go to India either, but I'll tell them, some very high price, and that'll get rid of them. So she gave them that price, and they accepted it. And soon she found her way. She found herself on her way to India, to Pune. And one of the relatives, I don't know, was a cousin or nephew, would come in every day and say, Susan, you're right near the tomb of Avatar Meher Baba. Don't you want to go and visit it? And she was like, no, I'm here to do my job. Just leave me alone. I'm not interested. I'm not spiritual. I couldn't care less about any of that stuff. But he kept it up. And so finally, she agreed. And she went up not Seclusion Hill, the hill to the Samadhi. And she met Nanakar, and he gave her this, big hug like he did to everyone. And he said, welcome home. And she became a bit disoriented, and she went stumbling around the hill. And at one point she tripped, and she landed right on the grave of Margaret Craske. And then she knew it was all preordained, and he woke her up to his divinity. So I just love that story.
Beautiful. Tina, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I see also there is Diane Snow. Did you want to share something?
Thank you. That's really very kind of you.
Hey, Bob. Good to hear.
I've had the most lovely morning hearing about my thank you Meher Baba dance teacher for 1 year, who I have just loved from the beginning of my life with Meher Baba. And I adore her still, of course, and always will. But I think I'm a better listener because my stint with her was very brief and very profound. So I would just like to say thank you each for your stories. Oh my gosh, food for the hungry.
Did you know of Baba before you met Margaret?
Well, that's interesting. I was just reflecting on that, and I was not prepared to speak, so forgive me for stumbling around. But Edward's recollections brought this to focus. And it was that I heard about Meher Baba. I didn't believe in God. I thought the whole thing of God was hogwash all my life. But I was in love with dance. And as a teenager, I studied very briefly with a wonderful teacher in my area. And that thing that is God came into my bloodstream, but I never thought that was God. I thought that was dance and some essence of something so fine and so pure and so full of light. And it so happened that I couldn't continue my studies, and so I went off and did other things. But at such a time, when I was 20, I stumbled upon the discourses, this beautiful little turquoise blue book. And I opened it up and I thought, I shouldn't be reading this. This is truth. I'm a nincompoop, you know, but I couldn't not read it. And so it came to me that this was God. This was God. And I heard shortly thereafter that Meher Baba had in his circle a dancer, a dancer. And I just, the two things came together. And I said, my favorite color is pink. I don't want to lie. He has a dancer in his circle. Obviously, he is God. So again, Margaret Craske brought me to Meher Baba. And, you know, I had always, I've treasured that in my heart because I have adored her all my life, as I mentioned. But it wasn't really until Carmen, thank you, Carmen, and Edward, shared their stories that I realized, oh my gosh, Margaret Craske is my link. And so when I was in my 30s, which everybody here knows is like 3 times too late to be studying dance, I had my chance. And I studied for 4 years with one of her students, Brynner Mell, who I also treasure and adore. And he's no longer with us here, but he's with us here. And so when he moved away from teaching where I was able to study with him, I said, Brynner, what am I supposed to do? You know, I need to study. And he said, study with Margaret Craske, and Miss Craske, excuse me. He never, and I shouldn't, and don't. But anyway, I wrote to her, and she said, yes, come for an audition. And so I flew to New York one weekend and had an audition. And by God's grace, she accepted me as a student. So I had the remarkable and unforgettable privilege of studying with her for that school year of hers before she went down to Myrtle Beach for the summer. And glory, glory. Thank you. That's my story. Jai Baba.
Glory, glory. That's a story. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing Brenner up to. He had Thanksgiving dinner right behind me at our dining room table a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. So beautiful.
Thank you.
And Nancy, I see that you're here.
Hello. Jai
Hello.
Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Oh, first I wanted to ask because I see Viola is here.
Yes.
And Viola, maybe with Donald today. Donald Mahler.
Well, I don't know if Donald was feeling well enough to come today, but we'll get with Viola. Are you with yourself or is Donald with you today?
No, today, Donald, yesterday I just called to confirm he felt not up. It's early for him to come in. He's 88, and so he's not here. I'm so sorry to say. Because of course he also, through Miss Craske, met Baba and carried Baba and stage managed for Baba. And he's got wonderful stories and wonderful wit and humor about Miss Craske. So I apologize that I didn't have enough charm to get him here. That would have been nice. All right. Sorry, Nancy.
Oh, Baba. Nancy, did you have something you'd like to share?
Yes. First of all, it's so wonderful. Please pardon my voice. I have a vocal cord problem.
No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
It's
Don't
so
worry.
wonderful to be here with everyone. Remembering Miss Craske, the video just streamed tears. It was beautiful. She was my link as well to Baba. I started studying dance in Indiana when I was 8 years old and had the blessing to be the student of a woman who was a marvelous teacher and whose best friend was Martha Hill, who was the head of Juilliard at the dance division at Juilliard. So we had a great teaching in a little tiny town in Wabash. And at 16, I had the great fortune of having a scholarship to go to Jacob's Pillow. And I was very shy at the time. And Miss Craske was there teaching. And I was, at the very first day, I made sure that I was way in the back of the class, so I couldn't be seen. But for some reason, there were many, many students. It was the very beginning and everyone was being sorted out. So somehow the portable bars got brought in and somebody moved me right to the very front of the class, right in front of Miss Craske. And one of the pictures in the montage was Miss Craske just as she was that day. It was beautiful. The white shirt, the hair pulled back, black pants, a stool and a cane. So we started the bar exercises. She started us in, usually instead of doing plies, she started us in parallel position to pull up the arches on our feet. Then we did plies. And by the time we got to tendus, she tapped her cane and looked at me and said, "Young woman, go out into the terrace and do your tendus until you can get them right." And she kicked me out of class. And I was mortified, of course. I had no idea who she was in the dance world before I got there. So I was doing my tendus every once in a while, peeking in the door to see if I got any instructions or if I was banished forever. And about 10 minutes later, somebody else got kicked out of class, which made me feel a little better. So I studied with Miss Craske for 2 weeks there at Jacob's Pillow. And then they rearranged all of the students and I got demoted to the next level down in ballet, but I got promoted to the advanced class in modern, which I had never studied before. So as a result, I got to be a Jacob's pillow dancer that year and perform at the Jacob's Pillow Theater. And then I became a modern dancer instead of a ballet dancer, because then I was much better suited for me to throw away point shoes and dance in my bare feet. So years later, so Miss Craske planted the seed, of course, and she gave me my first big ego slice in my life. It was like Zorro cutting a Z and putting in the sword. But so I went to Buddhism after that. And remember at the Zen Center in Rochester, New York, under Roshi Kapleau, going to the bookstore and picking up a copy of the Everything and the Nothing. And I carried that book with me forever until years later. There's a longer backstory that I won't tell. I came to Myrtle Beach because Cher DiMaggio was going to deliver our first son. And we spoke with Kitty and Jane and asked if we could spend a night on the center after she delivered him at the Conway Hospital. And they agreed. We were living in Beaufort, North Carolina at the time. And Owen was born at 7 hours old. We were on the center with him. And Kitty and Jane said, "You must stay 3 days." And that was a shock, a wonderful shock. We'd only been to the center a couple times before. So they put us in Happy House, and we didn't even know Happy House existed. So there was our firstborn son in Happy House, where Miss Craske then spent her last days and where we visited her with Owen when he was just a wee babe. We were there one time and Jane Brown came in and Owen was sleeping on the sofa behind us. And Jane came in and said, "Oh, what a sweet baby." And Miss Craske said, "He's mine, you know." So Miss Craske also taught me one of my most valuable lessons in life. She was ill. We were on the center and we had 2 children at the time, Owen and Thatcher. And I went to the lagoon cabin to say goodbye. And I got, "Go see Margaret, go see Margaret, go see Margaret." And we were so caught up in having, in the busyness of our lives, thinking we had to get back in time. And we didn't go see Miss Craske, and she passed before we could see her again. So what a lesson to listen to Baba. Thank you all so much, Jai Baba.
So beautiful. Nancy, thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Hello, everybody.
It's so exciting to have the dancers. It's so exciting and it's so wonderful. Now, Janet, you were talking about a story about Edward dancing for Margaret in the barn. Do you want to share some of that, Miss Janet?
Yes. Most of this is to try to nudge Edward to fill in the gaps. Okay, so Margaret was, at Happy House, and Dana and Barbara and, others were caring for her. And she was, off and on not very strong. But, and Edward, you helped me remember, it was for, turn your microphone on so you can help me tell the story. Because it was for her birthday, for Baba's birthday? No.
No, it was the anniversary of when the first dancers danced for Baba in the barn.
Right.
So if it was 1958, then it would have been 1988 that we performed in the barn for Baba, for Miss Craske and Kitty and Jane and.
Right. So I want you to talk about that some more, because I just want to lead in to show Margaret and Dance and Baba how that energy just infused her, because we happened to have the privilege of taking her in for this very marvelous event, because we had a van we had 3 children at the time. Daniel hadn't been born yet. So we went to get her and we had her in a little wheelchair. We'd taken the middle seat out of the van, and she was all just kind of pulled in on herself, I think, trying to be kind of hold on, and we tried to go very slowly through the center. Well, there's roots, and I felt like every time we hit a little tiny bump, and Bill Foz, my husband, was going very slowly. It just, you felt it through her whole body, and it was just, so we got her out, we got her in to the barn, and she had, of course, the front row seat. And the dancers, and Edward will take it from where I end. So the dancers were coming in the same way they came in, which is the side of the barn that's closest to, let's say, the ocean. And then I had 2 little boys at the time. I think they were 5 and 7. And those of you who know what little boys are like at that age, it's something to keep them still and focused. Okay, so Edward, you have to tell the part that you were playing and what you remember, anything you remember. Oh, as they started to dance, as the music rose, it was like somebody had poured water on Margaret as she was like a drooping flower. She suddenly rose up into her fullness and was 100% present as they started to dance. So now you take it from there, Edward.
Well, I don't know where to begin. There's a lot of little pieces to it, but the piece that Janet is referring to is one of the pieces we did was the Firebird, and I played Koche, who was the magician, and Janet's boys, and I think it must have been them and some other little boys, were in the front row, and they were cutting up, as they were, and pulling focus. And so I, as Koche, rose up in all my power and I scared them to death. I had a big cane and I hit it on the floor right next to them and they all pulled back. But it was an incredible experience for us to dance there. And for me, I was already not young, and it was because of the good training I had had that I was still able to be there and participate in that. And it was one of the highlights in my dancing was to dance in the barn and for her. And and it wasn't, you know, Baba likes the challenges like Miss Craske, Baba asking her to dance with, you know, where she did in Europe. You know, the barn was slippery. The girls had point shoes on. You know, it's an impossible situation for like a professional ballet company to be dancing in. You know, they'd walk from a dressing room tent out in the sand in their point shoes through the sand up the back steps. And it wasn't easy that way. And I did a hornpipe dance, which I thought was awful. I did a terrible job. I felt awful. But then when I went to do Koche, I had incredible experience performing that there. It was really amazing. And then the dancers brought flowers to Miss Craske, and she just looked so beautiful. I mean, just so beautiful. There's a little snapshot somewhere of her in the middle of a sea of people. You couldn't have fit another Baba person in the room, but it was quite. You could feel Baba's presence there. I don't know how to describe it. It was just an incredible, loving experience.
And as an audience member, I've always loved ballet, but I didn't get to take dance lessons because in my family you could take one lesson. I mean, you know, there was an economy, and I chose piano. But I just loved ballet. I loved reading about it. I loved talking to Margaret about it. Well, I had never seen ballet. I'd seen ballet dancers, but never as close up, and also never as trained. And I felt like they were dancing, even their eyelashes were dancing. They were just so full of the music and the dance, and I'd never seen anything like that before, and I felt it was Margaret's instruction and Baba coming through them. But I'm curious, Edward, who else maybe was there? Like, who were the other dancers, if you recall, that got to dance? Because most of them had studied either with Margaret or with one of her students, right?
Oh yeah, they were all students. That's how the company was formed. The choreographers shared a pool of dancers who were all students of Miss Craske. So that's how we worked together. But there were a few that had come to the company. There was one boy in particular, I don't remember his name, who Miss Craske really seemed to respond to. And it was like, that was the only time he danced with the company, and it was like that was meant to be. And the day of the performance, I could see where Miss Craske would be tired because we went to Happy House, the whole company, and sat with her during the day, and she focused on this one boy in particular. I always remember that because he was not a regular company member. One of the company members had hurt himself, and the last minute this kid had to come in and learn like so much material, and he did it. And it was quite remarkable, but I always remember that. And, you know, I don't want to leave out any dancers by starting to name any. So
I was there. I was there.
Yay! Oh, good.
I was there, and I remember how she gave us attention after we performed. And she like would go to each one of us and say, "Oh, you danced lovely," and especially Beth. Remember Beth Bruning?
Yeah.
"Oh, your dancing has improved so much, Beth." And Beth and I had given Miss Craske a sweater, and we were so excited to be there. And she said to me, this is her wonderful way of being able to cut your ego down. She said, "And you too, dear." And I was like, but I didn't care because I was a Baba lover and I was excited to be on the center and stuff. But Alaba was there as well. I remember that. I met him there. Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't remember that. Anyway,
it was around.
It was a very special time. So
Yeah.
I'm thanking all you dancers for making that happen.
Thank Baba. Thank Baba.
And Baba.
The whole barn was like, yeah.
It was. It was great.
Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome, Edward. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you both. Thank you, Bala. Oh, all right. Viola, I just wanted to take a moment and see what you might want to share because you've been so quiet and I know that you have some things that you might want to share with us.
Oh, Ruth, thank you.
Oh,
And so grateful to be here and so beautiful that
brother here.
I was so hoping, I was just looking through and I just didn't see him.
He may have left.
And I wished he could share and be with everyone here. So grateful to both of you for putting this on and everybody share. It was almost like hearing, oh yes, I know that aspect of Miss Craske. Yes, I experienced it. Oh yes, my mother had that experience of Miss Craske. Oh yes. And then I started jotting them down. And after I got to 14 or 15, I thought I would just forget it. So nobody mentioned her gravitas. She had gravitas. She really did. She had such presence. And somebody mentioned that she was a conduit. And I had also heard that Baba had said it was Miss Craske's love that had drawn him to the West that time he came, the first time when she met him. And nobody mentioned that. And when I, my connection to Baba turned out to be through Miss Craske. Like the dancers, when I started to ask about Miss Craske, I was about Baba, my mom brought me to Miss Craske. And the experience I was expecting to hear about Baba, but that wasn't the experience. The experience was that I went with my mom. It was in the Wellington Hotel, and she had pictures of Baba all around the top of the room. You might remember, Edward. And she and my mom started to catch up. And first they were talking of poetry, then literature, then theater. The next thing I know, they're gossiping about ballet. And I'm sitting there, I'm astounded that there's so much world in a good way that these women knew so much about. And meanwhile, I'm looking at pictures of Baba. And then Miss Craske turned to me. And I'm sure everyone here has had that experience from her in one way or another. And the experience was of receiving, without words, love. And when I think of it now, it also makes me tear up because it was such a contented experience and tears just came out. And she was a conduit, no doubt. And I started to visit her myself. One time, perhaps it was that visit, I don't know anyway, she said, I heard somebody else say this, it's not important whether you think Baba's God or not. You think anybody can know? You think anyone can know? Of course not. She said, but what is important is he wants your love. So Miss Craske, when I was about 18 and I went to visit her, she had come to our home when we were children, but to me, she was my mother's friend, and I thought of her as a resource of sweets because she would always bring sweets. And I think on my first visit, she gave me one of Baba's books, which I still have. So anyway, I would visit her through the years, and it did happen that I felt that feeling Baba gave, that feeling of love or connection, and then not. So now I'm 18 and I'm sitting with her, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, what happened to you?" I didn't know. She said, "You used to love Baba." Oh, I used to love Baba. And I thought, oh yes, I don't have that sense of Baba. And then she said 4 things to do. And one was not to be good. Like, I guess we've all heard, to knock off that extra O. And of course, around Baba, we seen in all of those who were his mandali, that naturalness. Of course, she had, she was huge. She was huge. And so natural in a certain way. So she said to me, that, which was the easiest of the things. And I know she also said this to Viola Farber and different ones. Look at Baba's picture and just remember memorize his brow, every detail of his face, memorize. And then see Baba looking out from your heart. And I've heard other people say that. And my mom said Miss Craske never told people what to do, but she did me. So, so that was those 2 things. And then she said to Mayor Baba, every day, read or recite the most practical way to love God. Yes. And then the last advice she gave me, or told me what to do, was to hang around Baba lovers, which I hadn't done because I'd been gleaning from her this idea that Baba lovers, not that I wasn't, but, we're all a little, so I've been gleaning that from her. And somehow that she had that way sometimes of seeing things. And so I did. And within a year, I wanted to go to India. Well, she didn't really approve of that. So the next year I was 19 and I was on my way to India and I stopped to see her and Edward. She said, all these young people running with backpacks off to India. And when Baba is right here, Baba is right here. And so she gave me advice too about India. So yes, I'm trying. So one of the things she said was, don't do what anyone tells you over there. None of them are Baba. That meant everyone, period, except Mara. And whatever Mara said, it's as if Baba says. So you do that. And yes. She also told me not to take prasad because only Baba gave prasad. All the silliness, passing out candy, so whatever. But, and also when I remember I said Jai Baba to her after I'd been spending more time with more Baba lovers and who I loved and adored from the very get-go. My first visit to the center was with one of Miss Craske's dancers named Myrna. I don't know if you met her, Ed. She was in the older group. Mm-hmm. And she is the one of whom Baba said that day, on that day when Myrna was there, she had a heart-wrenching experience, heartbreaking experience. And Mara had, it had come to, she had shared with Mara her grief, and Mara had gone to Baba. And this I learned because Miss Craske told my mom. And also Tex remembers it. Yeah, he remembered it. And anyway, Baba said, oh, don't worry, of all of them, she will have the greatest experience of me. And she had a very difficult life. And at the end of her life, that ineffable thing, which is, of course, Baba, the man in Baba himself, not the body. She had that coming out of her heart in a way that people were drawn to her. She was dying of cancer. And people from around would just come, and somehow she would listen, and they would be able to relieve their troubles there. And yeah, she was one of Baba's dancers. And I'd heard of you all dancing later for Baba. I'm sorry I wasn't there. And Myrna, when we stayed in Naomi's house the first trip, she had brought her kids and me. And this was 71. And her son was a little bit of a savant and played, but he had brain damage. And she danced. She was losing her hair, and she was way overweight, and she was older, and she danced almost more beautifully than I've seen anyone dance. It was so graceful. And I had heard that Miss Craske had said she was the most talented of that group of dancers, but she had a weight problem. She could never, and she also wore glasses, and in those days, no contact lenses, you see. And anyway, I don't know why I'm sharing about Myrna. Oh, well, because of that day and Miss Craske's care for everyone. I was hearing about, oh, Miss Craske at this time when I was most down. And it was the same with my mother, who's had a severe depression. After her fourth child, she realized she'd never dance again. And she went into a severe depression and other things. And Miss Craske brought her, arranged with texts and different ones to have her brought into the city for a rest day, and sent her vitamins, and how Miss Craske, she could just tune in like that. She just knew. And Miss Craske. Wait, nobody did mention that gravitas, but I sure experienced it from her. She had that. She had, yeah, Baba. I think you said it, Ed. Somebody said it. It was as though, yes, the only thing that mattered was love. And she did find, I think, Noreen a little. Oh, never mind. That's my share. I can't think of what else to say about Miss Craske except that she and her. Yes. Well, storytelling. So the last time I got to see Miss, oh dear, you know how they would tune in. So one time I went to the center, it was Miss Craske's 91st birthday, I think, and we arrived for the party, and I had just been having a horrible time of it and just felt like the lowest thing that crawled on the earth. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, my dear," it was a backhanded compliment. "Oh, my dear, you are so much more human." I'm like, oh, I guess it's all right. I guess it's all right to go way down. I guess that's just fine. And then later years, the last time I went to the center when she was still here, for some reason, she had me come every single day at a certain time. So I'd come, and every day she'd tell me the same story. And the story was of how my dad went to meet Baba and what happened. And anyway, I don't know why she did that, but it gave me a great appreciation for what's important, I think, and that is the connection to Baba. Yeah, that she was trying to illustrate that I don't know. Anyway, it's a different story. So thank you for letting me share about Miss Craske, who was beautiful, who was very witty and very, charming, and had that sight and that love. That's how I experienced her. Thank you.
Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Much love.
Much love.
Was your mother at the center when Margaret passed away?
She and Tex and Ed. So I think what she came down for it. So I think what Tex had said was that those of each generation that were so close got to be there. And of course, she and Tex were at Jacob's Pillow the same year that Margaret arrived in America through Anthony Tudor. It was Anthony Tudor who, because she arrived in England without hardly a penny and raggedy clothes, and how's she going to take care of herself? How's she going to work? She runs into Anthony Tudor on the street. Apparently, this is the story I heard. Anthony Tudor offered, she had been his teacher, and he knew her status. So he offered her work in America. And Ed, you might know whether it was ABT then or whatever, where he was working and where she was invited to be the ballet mistress. And so that's how she got to America. What I heard it, so they met her, and then there's that wonderful story of Miss Craske hiding in the bushes while Tex is doing the yard work, lawn work, because he was a scholarship student. So he's doing the lawn work, trimming or clipping or, one of those handheld mowers. And he notices the bushes keep rattling. And so finally he looks over and Miss Craske comes out, as he told the story, picking up pieces of, bush and saying, "Have you not any sense of adventure?" And, just the fun, the joy, and these kinds of things. So yes, and I remember her sitting on our patio when my parents had left the city, and it was quite elegant. And I remember too the Met, the old Met, because when I was a toddler, a youngster, my mom was still taking class, and I was left upstairs, like a little walkway, catwalk, and looking down, seeing the ballet people. And it was through Miss Craske and all of you, Edward, all the dancers, that I definitely had the experience and feeling that dance was of God, and that was one of the best, highest things you could do in the world. And also, I just happened to be very a lot of physical energy I had to work off as a youngster, so it worked out just fine. And she also gave me a little bit of direction about dancing me. So that's it. Thank you so much for doing this, and everybody's beautiful stories. And every time I heard something, I wanted to jump in and say, "Oh yes, that." And Dana, so you captured something about her, and I can't remember what it was, but it really touched my heart. And she was a conduit of love, and really speaking, that's what Baba said he is. So, worldly status and importance is unimportant. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, love y'all.
True, that's why. I just wanted to say quickly, when Margaret passed, I happened to be on the center. It was just some freak thing, and it was a rainy night. And somehow I found out that Margaret had passed away. I don't recall everything, except I think your mother was staying in the same cabin that I was. And so she told me to come with her. And so we went to the original kitchen, and she had brought all the flowers from the hospital that were in Margaret's room, and she wanted to put them in vases and take them into the lagoon cabin. So I was privileged at that time to get to do that with her. And I just remember when we walked in, and she said something like, "Well, Baba, you've taken your lady." And, we bowed and put the flowers. So I'm so grateful to your mother for that moment. So, Che Baba.
Thank you, Ruth, for sharing that. Beautiful.
Thank you. Jeff? Love you, Viola.
Love you too, Ruth.
So, being at the center, we're really fortunate that Margaret would come down every summer. So I got a lot of chances to see her over the years. And the thing about Margaret that I always picture her is that she was so clear in her vision that you couldn't put anything past her. You couldn't play a joke on. I mean, you could fool Kitty in different ways. You could not fool Margaret in any way. She just had a very clear sight, So, so anyway, there were some of us that that worked at Happy House in the latter years, and a lot of you were there, and some of us in the evenings had. Oh wait, I just want to remember, this whole thing on Link. One time when I was there with her at Happy House in the evening, a memory came back to her that at least she hadn't shared with Tex Hightower, and he probably knew everything about Margaret, but a childhood memory came back. And this was, she said that, I guess she was in London or whatever, and she went up north of London on the coast for holidays. I guess they would be there for some time. And back then there were gypsies that would travel kind of along the countryside. And at one point there was a noise in the back of their backyard, and Margaret and her mother came out the back door and opened it, and there were a whole band of gypsies. And one of the gypsies said, pointing to Margaret, she's the one who has the link with the expected one. She was maybe 8 years old or something. And so it all went around, and then the next night, even more of the gypsies came. And this one, I don't know if more than one, but one said that she is the one who has the link with the expected one. She'll go all over the world speaking about him. So it's amazing, because when she first saw Baba in 1931, one of the first things he said is, "You are my link to the West." But those gypsies already, already knew that she was a link. They recognized her. Now, she had a great sense of humor, as you all know, and the women, Mondley said she was great to be with, because they would be going through like the Blue Bus tours, exhausting and everything, and Margaret's remarks were always very funny. But here are some of them that I remember. There was a buddy of mine named Walter Overkarsh, and this takes place at the center. And he's going out for a walk with Margaret on one of her summer visits, and she's got her cane there. And he says, "Margaret, I don't know what I did in my past life to have the good fortune to know Baba. There's nothing I've done in this lifetime. It must have been from another time." And Margaret stops in the road and eyes at him very pointedly. He says, "What makes you think he was attracted by your good qualities?" That's just the way she is. And she would sit on the porch there, as we've described, of Dilruba, and Kitty had her office there, and people would come in, traipsing in to go see Kitty, and Margaret would be sitting in the sun. And this one woman, I can't remember her name, but she came up there, and Margaret said, "Who are you?" And she says, "Oh, I'm new. I'm new to all of this. This is my first time." And Margaret says, "Good. You still have time to escape." So that's an entirely different approach to the disciples of Jesus. You still have time to escape. Now here's another one. Just imagine, Margaret is 96 and David Silverman is 45. And he's always wanted to, he's with her there, I think on the back porch, on that screen porch, and he's telling her that he always wanted to have someone to share his life with, a soulmate, someone, years have gone by, 45 years, nothing has happened. And he's kind of confessing this to Margaret. And he looks over at Margaret and says, Margaret, if you were younger, I would have asked for your hand. And Margaret leans back and says, I'm sorry, David, but I had in mind a much younger man. I mean, to come out with that at age 96, she's 96 and he's 45. I'm sorry, David, but I had in mind a much younger man.
Oh, you guys, I hate to interrupt, but I'm doing it because nobody mentioned the patch on the back of her pants. And I don't know if it's written down anywhere, but this is when they were up in the second floor at Maribod in the late 30s. And they hardly ate anything, and they all had to deal with each other. Bob was away all the time, and they were just with each other. And their clothes were getting all full of holes, and then they had to patch everything, and they couldn't wear anything that didn't have wasn't sewn, that had a hole. So one day Margaret embroiders on the back of a patch, God is love.
Yeah.
And then she sewed this under the seat of her pants. So you know, imagine you're half starving and you're dealing with all these women you love but you can't stand, and there's your patch, you know. God has left me here. Anyway, she had a great sense.
Yeah.
I like
well,
that.
that reminds me of up there on the hill, Baba had put some of the women on silence. And so one evening the two women were having an argument, gesturing, you know, with their hand signs, having an argument. And Margaret was trying to get some rest and everything. And they're going way at it. Margaret goes over, she takes the lantern and turns it off. End of argument. You can't see. She finished that. I think that was Rain Billow and Mansari, I think. Now, here's one thing that I thought of is I went to see her in the hospital right very toward the end. I don't know if it was, I can't remember, very close to the end. And she used to call me Sonny Boy. Hey, Sonny Boy. And I did the most, what can I say, blasphemous thing. I would call her Maggie. Hey, Maggie, how you doing? Everybody's calling her Miss Trask and you know, and Margaret and all that. And I call her Maggie. And she got a kick out of that. But anyway, I'm at the foot of her bed. She has passed on. And I'm just standing there, you know, remembering all the wonderful times I've had with her. And then I hear her voice. And she says, hey, Sonny Boy. And that was beautiful, you know, from the other side. Hey, Sonny Boy. And yeah, I think that's what comes to mind right now. There's some other things, but there are more people that need to share.
Well, and I'm going to get to them right now, but I just have a quick question, Jeff, since you mentioned that nobody could pull off any prank with her. Did you ever succeed in any way?
I didn't. I do a lot of pranks, but or anything, just little, you know, little subtle things with her, and I could never get anything past her. She was just her perception was too clear.
It was too quick for you.
There weren't, you know, there was no imagination making up, you know, or projections. It was just seeing. Yeah.
So beautiful.
That was my experience.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you. Just so moving. Ron Greenstein. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thanks for letting me share this anecdote. I have had very little connections with Margaret, only really two on the center. But the first one, although in time and space it was very short and very small, but it was profound. And it's something I'll never forget. And I tell this anecdote a lot because it's so meaningful to me, hopefully for others would be as well. So what it was in the summer of '72, I was at the center for my second pilgrimage. And just as an aside, two people that I met, one was Margaret for the first time. The other was Paul Liberon. So I thought I'd just mention that. But the opportunity to meet and talk with Margaret was, I had been going through something since I had arrived at the center, maybe 3 or 4 days earlier, which was an inner turmoil that I was having as to what I was doing in my life, and maybe I was really on the wrong track and with the wrong attitude of mind to please Baba. And so this was a struggle. I was going through a really like a struggle. Like I was fighting a dragon or something, and I needed help. So I thought, well, I had heard that Kitty could give people advice. So I decided, well, I'll make an appointment with Kitty. So I made the appointment with Kitty, and this was around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I was just walking toward Dilruba, but I did stop in because I know Margaret was going to be telling stories at the reading room. So we're sitting on the porch in the reading room, the several of us that were there, listening to Margaret's delightful stories. Then when it was over, I also knew that Margaret was heading back toward Dilruba for lunch. So I asked if I could walk with her because I was headed there for this appointment with Kitty. And as we started walking, it was clear to me, I mean, maybe nothing's ever been more clear, that Kitty was not going to be giving me the advice. And that was going to be left to Margaret. Baba through Margaret. And the simplicity of this is maybe seems silly, but it wasn't. Basically, I had been struggling within myself as to what I should do. And I was thinking I needed to get back in the world and have some type of work to do. So what's one of the first things that Margaret finds out about me? Well, I guess she got my name. I can't remember that. But then what do you do? I guess I told her I was from Miami, Florida at the time. So I said, she says, what do you do in Miami? And I said, well, you know, I really can't tell you because this is something that I'm wondering about what to do. I don't really have anything that I'm doing, so to speak, right now. I don't have any work or anything, and I don't know exactly what I should do. Well, she probably maybe she had heard something like that in the past. And so she said something that was quite profound. It's not going to sound profound, but what she said was, what do you like to do? And that sort of simplicity and truth really focused me in on something, but it was also I was still struggling because everything that I would think of seemed short of what my ego had told me that I should be doing. And so when I told Margaret that I like to cook, she just simply said, well, you should go back and be a cook in a hotel or a restaurant. And I realized that several months earlier, I had gone to a restaurant that I really liked. And when I had left there, I had asked Baba if I should work at this place as a cook, even though I had never been a cook before. And Baba pretty much said yes, but then I was off into the world to do some other things and gotten caught up in that. So she directed me, and as soon as I could find a way to get back and go to this restaurant to see if I could get this job there, I did. And two guys were leaving in about, I think like 2 days later, which cut it a week short of my trip. But I knew I just had to get back to this to see if I get this job. And so this is what Margaret did for me. It sounds so small and so obvious, but that she was able to be the conduit for that is magnificent. And just to finish up, what happened when I did get back, I went to this restaurant the very next day. I asked for a job, and I asked if there was a job there, and they said, yes, you can make, we have a spot for a salad maker at night. And I thought, well, I don't really want to work nights, and I don't really want to, I wanted to cook. I didn't want to put together salads. So I said, I'll take it. And because I knew I had to work there. And the next day I get a call from somebody at the restaurant. Our assistant to the chef had got a different job and they're not working for us anymore. Would you like to become the assistant morning chef? So that's how that worked out. So I have to thank Margaret for that. A very important person in my life, although not a whole lot of contact with her, but I appreciate everybody else's input today. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Ron. That's a beautiful story. I could just see you walking through the center. Yeah, Margaret's clarity. Wendy? I see Wendy's here. Wendy Connor, Wendy Haynes Connor. Would you like to share a little bit with us?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you beautifully.
Good. Oh, good. Well, first I want to say I'm looking forward to seeing the video after this because I'm sure I've missed some incredible, wonderful reminiscing. And let's see, I met Margaret when I was 5 at Yukon Dunes, and I'll never forget, it was summer. So she was there. She came, as you all have heard, I'm sure, came every summer, every holiday, actually, every big holiday, Christmas, summer, sometimes Easter, Thanksgiving. Not every year, the Thanksgiving and Easter, not every year, but anyway. And of course, it was such a treat. I fell in love with Margaret right away because, like Kitty and Elizabeth, she was so attentive to me as a little person, you know, treated me with such respect and wanted to know my opinions about things. And oh, really? Oh, yes, that's what Baba says. And, you know, it was just so, so loving and so affirming, I felt. Now, we moved to New York 5, 6, and in other words, I had 5 years old, 6, and 7 in Myrtle Beach with her. And then we moved to New York at Baba's bidding. And we saw Margaret so much more, which was a treat, a special treat. You know, I am woefully unprepared because I've been doing some center writing and projects. So I couldn't find, or rather didn't have time to find photos, but I did find 2 that are in calendars that my nephew made for me. And they give a good glimpse of Margaret's humor and charm and everything. And see if I can hold it up. Maybe you could go center screen or maybe not. There we go. Look at that expression. I don't know if you can see it well, but she's playing. She's going, you know, like, yes, only I know, or something like that. It was so precious. And that's a classic Margaret expression of, there we go, of being silly. She was so silly and so witty and so much fun. I mean, it was a joy to spend time with her. And like you've heard, her favorite spot was in the sun. And I think that's one reason she remained so healthy till the end of her life. She sat in the sun whenever she could, because in New York City, you can't really do that unless you go to the park, which she didn't have time to do, I'm sure. And one of the delightful things that she would do at Christmas, every single Christmas, and I was hoping to find this for you, because she would write these little poems, 2 or 3 sentences for the place cards. Elizabeth always ask her, will you write a little poem for the table? And they were so delightful. And I was hoping to find, I have saved a couple of them, and they're just charming about the king and I, and, you know, I just can't remember, I'm afraid. Couldn't put my hands to it. But the delight of that, of waiting to go to the table and to see what Margaret had written was such a treat. And then Elizabeth would have one of the children read it to all of us gathered at the table. And also when we opened the gifts, my job was to sit with Elizabeth and help her open the gifts. And but sometimes I would go and help Margaret. And I don't know, you know, it's so hard to describe. I'm sure some of you have had trouble. It's so hard to capture these women, isn't it? But we try. It's like trying to capture the beauty and majesty of Meher Baba, you know? But it's so wonderful to hear these, the stories help. So I have a very funny story I thought you would enjoy. And it's, you know how Margaret did correspondence for Baba often in a certain period of time in India. So one time she would get the letter and she would write a response and then run it by Baba, take it to Baba. So this one letter this man wrote, and it was a very desperate kind of letter. And also he was full of himself. It was both. So the first part of the letter was how wonderful he was. First part of the letter was how he was struggling in life and had a terrible time with everything, and he was so down and depressed. But the second half of the letter was about how wonderful he was, and he didn't understand how people couldn't appreciate how wonderful he was. So Margaret gets the letter and she writes the response. Dear so-and-so, I think the best thing to do is for you to die and then take another form. So she takes it to Baba. Baba has a good chuckle, but of course he tells her, no, that won't do. You have to write another letter. Isn't that wonderful? You have to die. Oh, so cute. Classic Margaret. Her humor was so, as we all know, just remarkable. Such wit. Kitty used to be intimidated by Margaret's wit. She never felt she could keep up, and she couldn't. Nobody could, you know. But she would say that, oh yes, she's so witty, so witty. And do you remember, you all have seen the movie, the video, The Frivolous Three. Well, you know who's in charge in that video is Margaret. She completely takes over. And if you look at Kitty's face, she cannot keep up, you know. She's just sitting there waiting for her turn. But Margaret took center stage with her charm and her wit and the beauty of her reminiscing, you know, just unbelievable. But it's so cute to see that, the classic example of Kitty feeling totally out of her depth when it came to her humor, Margaret's humor. Jeff told the story of Elaine Billow, and it was Elaine, I think, arguing, and how she turned off the lantern. Well, Margaret would take great glee, and someone may have told this story, but Elaine Billow was a compulsive talker, which is why Baba put her on silence for a whole year. And I have actually experienced that. It's extraordinary experience to be in Elaine Billow's presence and not be able to get a word in. You really can't. It was impossible. She would just go on and on and on. And she stayed with us one time in Silver Spring, and her favorite topic was the sewer system in Switzerland, because that's what her father helped to build. But she would spend hours talking about the sewage system. Anyway, so same in India. So when she's on silence, she's making up all these gestures. They weren't anything recognizable, but she was trying her best because she couldn't not talk or communicate. So one night, and Margaret was her favorite to corral, that's according to Margaret. So she corralled Margaret and she followed her to her bed. It was bedtime. So Margaret just reached up and turned off the lights. And that was the end of that. It was the only way to stop her or to walk away. But it was a similar story, Jeff. So cute. let's see. Oh, yes. Oh, I showed you one story. I mean, photo. Here's another. This is, I would go in with her, take her into the library often, in Kitty's Queen Catherine's cart. It was so much fun. Let me see if I can get her. So sweet. Look how happy she looks. We had such a wonderful time when she came. I would drive her into the center on the kitty cart and take her back. Sometimes we'd drive down to the beach, not walk on the beach, but just drive down. It's interesting, Ron, you told that story about struggling with your career. Well, there was a time in my life, I never asked Kitty or Annie Boo or Margaret, Elizabeth for advice, never. If they wanted to tell me, that was fine, but I never did. But I might share what I was going through, once in a while. And Margaret was there for the summer. And I remember, I think I was in my early 20s, late teens, I think. I don't know. Young, very young. And I said to Margaret, I was just sharing with her how I thought I really was drawn to working at that time. And we go through many phases as we're growing up. I was thinking about working with abused children. I mean, yes, with children who had been abused by their parents or anyone. And Margaret looked at me. She heard me out, just sharing about it, not asking her really. And she said, Wendy, I think that would be too difficult for you. I think you're too sensitive. I wouldn't do that. It's one of the few times she would actually say something that clear and that directive. So and she was right. It would be too painful for me. Another time I said I wanted to be a dancer. Of course, I knew that I wouldn't be a dancer, but I said to her anyway, I said, do you think I could dance? And she said, well, not ballet, dear, but you could be a modern dancer. And I said, oh, wonderful. So I did think about that for a while, but that was kind of late in the game. It's a little too late to become a dancer. Yeah. And we went to see her teach, Buzz and I, and that was extraordinary, just extraordinary. Because, and I'm sure people have talked about this, Viola perhaps, all she had to do, she'd sit on that stool. She's in her 80s at this point, I think it was 80s, yes. And she would just point the stick. That's all she had to do, and move it maybe a couple of ways, inches that way and inches that way, or forward and back. And it's all it took. Everybody knew exactly what she meant, and they would do it. And she would stop them, point the stick again. I mean, it was extraordinary to watch. It's such a gift to be in that class with her. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to bring Bunny out. He's very tired of all the performing, and visiting. But he did come out with Margaret. I, of course, shared Bunny with her, and she adored Bunny, adored him. And I took Bunny to see her near when she was close to the end, and she would call him, hello, darling. Oh, you're such a darling. And she would play with him and tickle his chest. And she just was in love with him. And that in itself, well, with all the Mandali, to see their response like that, they became like a child, which is what Baba wants for all of us, to be like children, but in the real sense, not childish, but childlike. And with them, of course, with the wisdom and the knowledge of who he is, just throughout their every thought and word and deed. One other thing I'll say, and I have too many stories, and so many memories, it's been hard for me to even pick them out. But I did want to say, and I think I've said it in another memorial, but I'm so struck. Early on, I was struck by how distinct the personalities were of each of these incredibly grand dames, these great women. And yet not one of them held themselves up as paragons of virtue or examples for Meher Baba. None of them had any ego about who they were, and actually a complete unconsciousness of who they were. None of that was in them. And they each in their own way let us all know that Baba was within and that that's where he could be found. And all the stories that she told, it was wonderful that Margaret told stories, because Elizabeth didn't, and Kitty didn't unless you asked her to go back in time. And it's not that Margaret lived in the past, that's for sure, she did not. But she did love these stories and loved sharing them. And I love that she told them over and over and over and over, because she knew, she knew that those stories about Baba are always fresh and always new. You can't tell them enough. Anyway, I'm going on and on, but just to say, back to that thought, I was just so touched by that they didn't put themselves, she didn't put herself on a pedestal ever. So natural, always natural and loving and charming. And they each were charming in their own way, but Margaret was a real treat. And I loved how she made Baba laugh so much. Don't you love the story of her jumping on Baba's back in Portofino? Unbelievable. Can you imagine? Baba said, everyone had left. She said, well, what? He said, what shall we do? So he jumped on her back. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Viola? You're muted, honey.
Let's forget the universe. Just for now, let's forget.
Yes, right. Forget the big stuff. But as you've said, I'm sure she could make him laugh. She charmed Baba so much. And what a role that is, to charm the God man. Can you imagine? And make him laugh? Oh, well, thank you so much. I really should stop. Let others go.
Oh, Wendy. Well,
Yes.
maybe sometime you will have a time just to share all of your memories.
No,
a time
thank
for
you.
all of them. And you triggered a memory about Miss
good.
Craske. And I remember her telling me, for some reason, the story of a dancer, a young man who had come to study with her, who'd had a very troubled childhood. He was from a wealthy family where he was not cared for. His parents bought lots of shoes and did this and that, whatever wealthy people would be doing. And he became involved in drugs. And Miss Craske told the story. He died very young, but she told the story of his life with such depth of understanding and compassion for him. And I just remembered that element that she had, and of course all the Mandali had, of seeing behind what's going on and really caring for each one. And of course that wit and that humor, as you described, and and also I never hear anyone talk about that patch anymore, but I remember hearing, probably from her or somewhere, God is love. I would always, but it's so wonderful, that freedom with Baba they had, that what is important is love, not the outer expression thereof, but the real McCoy. Yeah.
That does say everything, actually. That patch says, the patch says everything.
Yeah.
About her.
Yes. And anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on, but it just triggered that memory of her telling me the story of somebody I didn't know, but with such compassion. It wasn't outer, really compassion. It was just like she saw him as a person of worth, and how sorry and tragic. And I remember when Audie came too, she was concerned that Audie was perhaps giving too Indian a message, so that those suffering with this or that would not realize that the important thing would be that embrace of Baba's, you know, to pay too much attention on the outer activity. You understand? I remember her saying that. I just thank you for your shares, and I can't wait to hear more.
Well, I did have a quick memory I wanted to share. It's nothing specific. Again, if I had time, I could have found an example for you. But one of the most fun things to do was on Silence Day to write notes back and forth. Oh my God. I mean, she was so funny. I mean, the things she would write, it was hysterical. I mean, we loved that so much with all of them. It was so much fun with Annie Boo and Kitty, but especially Margaret. She was so funny. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. On Silence Day was a lot of fun.
So beautiful. Well, I'm just going to throw in something that really touched me because I remember bringing a friend to the center, and this woman was a wild child. We were young, she was wild, but she was very beautiful, and she was very witty and dry and clever. And we met Margaret on Kitty's porch in the back on the screen porch. And Margaret was so accommodating with this woman. She just shared from her heart and shared things with her. And it was so beautiful. And of course, my friend was like completely taken by Meher Baba and by Margaret. But at that time, I remember a story of Margaret saying how all the women would always be like, oh, Baba, you know, when you were Rama, I was Sita, right? And, you know, I was, and you and I, and they would go on. And Margaret finally said, Baba, I will be your fiance and you'll never have to marry me. And Baba smiled and, you know, yeah, right. That's exactly, thumbs up. And then there was another part, but I don't know if I'm free to share it. But anyway, she just was so astounding. I love that story though. I'll be your fiance and you'll never have to marry me, Baba. Well, I'm just wondering if anybody else, I know there's a room full of people here and that might have something to share. I don't see the hand.
Didn't he give her a ring and tell her not to tell Mara?
Well, that was the last part of it. She told me about the next day, Baba came with this beautiful ring because when we were sitting on the porch, I looked at it and it was like a scarab ring. It was gorgeous. And I said, oh, Margaret, that is such a beautiful ring. And she said, oh, Baba gave that to me. And then she told the story. And then I came back to visit her at Happy House with my husband. And I said, I told him the story about the ring. And she said, oh no, you weren't supposed to tell anyone that story. But I think it ended up in one of her books and obviously Tina knows it. So I guess I'm relieved of that. And it was okay to tell it. Also, I'm a member of Al-Anon and I was on a hotline for calls. If anybody needed to go to a meeting, we'd give them a ride. And I got a call one night and we went and picked this woman up in a wheelchair and she got in the back seat and we're driving off to the meeting and she's in the back seat and she's talking and finally she said something like, you'd never believe to look at me now that I was once a dancer. I studied in New York with a very famous teacher, Miss Craske. And of course, my jaw just dropped open. And I said, you studied with Margaret Craske? And she said, oh, yes, yes. And she went on about Margaret. So I knew I would see her again. I don't know how, if we picked her up for a second meeting, but I had a calendar with Margaret Craske's picture in it with Baba behind her. And I really somehow wanted this woman to see Baba, kind of more than I wanted her to see Margaret, to be honest. I don't know why, but I gave her that picture. I ripped it out and, you know, put it in a nice little frame and gave it to her. And of course she was so thrilled to receive it. And I was just glad she got to see Meher Baba because she did later take her life. So I was just happy that the connection was there again for her with Baba through Margaret. So, and Susan Smith, I see you down here. I know you must have some story. Are you there, Suze?
You're muted, Susan.
Oh,
There
There
yeah,
you go.
I'm here. I'm just crying because of all these so touching stories. I just remembered the thrill it was to go into the library and hear Margaret.
Mm.
And what you said, Wendy, you could hear those stories over and over again,
Yeah.
and they were just on your edge of your seat, waiting to hear her express it again. And so much fun. But boy, you better get there on time or early, because she would shut that door and lock it, and you could not get in. But yeah, I just looked recently at a picture of our two children on either side of her at Happy House when she was staying there near the end of her life. It's fun to hear how much she loved the son, and so many people touched by her love, unspeakable love for Baba. That I hadn't heard that ring story before either. That's so beautiful. It was just like Margaret. I'll be your fiance, but you won't have to marry me. Anyway, thank you so much. This has all been so beautiful.
Ruthie. Ruthie?
Yes, darling, I'm here.
Can I go again? I just thought of something. Are you sure?
Oh,
I don't want to keep anyone else. Has anybody else raised their hand or want to go?
And no hands are up, so please go.
Okay. Well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about moving Margaret from New York. Buzz and I were the ones that moved her to Myrtle Beach, and was so touching because when she came to Myrtle Beach, before she moved, she wanted to know where she could stay. She said, I can't stay at Del River. I couldn't live with Kitty. And Kitty said, oh, privately, oh, she can't stay here. She can't stay here. I couldn't live with her. So cute. I mean, they both knew, you know. Oh gosh. Anyway, so we took her around different places and we ended up at Happy House. And I think you all know that was my home as a child. And Happy House had been moved on to the center. And anyway, so we take her there and she said, oh, this is lovely. I could take, let's see, I could just take that room there. We couldn't believe it. I mean, the humility. I mean, of course we would give her the whole house. We never even thought of just one room, but that's how she was. Oh, I could have the room in the back, couldn't I? We said, Margaret, you can have the whole house. Anyway, so, but moving her was such an amazing experience, eye-opening in many ways. The simplicity of the way she lived, of course. She lived in one room in the Hotel Wellington for many, many, many years. And one thing that motivated her to move, I think Buzz and I are blamed somewhat for talking her into it, but we did not talk her into it. No one could talk Margaret into anything. You must know that. But when she mentioned it, we said, well, we understand and we'll help you find a place. Anyway, so, but one reason she wanted to move is because they were doing construction across the street and there was nothing but coal, dark, exhaust fumes and dust from the construction pouring in the window. It was so unhealthy for her. And yet Margaret always had the window open. That was the way she lived. Even in the winter, she would have it open some. But it got to be injurious for her health. And she knew that. Margaret was one of the most health conscious people had ever met. So yeah, so I wanted you to know that, oh, and that's when we discovered, Ruth, I don't know if you mentioned this in the beginning, did you, that we found the poem? That's when we found it? The song that you had?
I did not. I didn't have, I just said that Buzz had written that song and then I put the poem up. So if you want to speak to that poem.
Yeah, it was just incredible because we were unpacking her chest of drawers. She only had one, and I think a cabinet. I mean, it was such a crammed space. And, you know, all her belongings were blown up in the war. So she didn't have a whole lot in terms of treasures and all that. But we came across this poem from Moni, and I can't tell you, it was buried in under some clothes, and she had totally forgotten about it. And when we showed it to her, her face lit up. I mean, she was so happy, and tears came to her eyes. And she said, "Read it to me." So we read it out loud, and that's why Buzz was inspired to write that song, because of how she felt about it. And it's such a beautiful song. Well, you may want to rest a while in the bower of his smile. Oh. But keep on dancing, dancer, please. Anyway, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't have a chance to say.
That's okay. Yeah.
It was, yeah, but thank you for bringing it up. Yeah. And you know, I saw Deborah. I know Deborah's had her hand up once or twice. Would you like to share, Deborah? You just need to unmute.
Sure, thank you. So I think it was in 1965, I started studying with Miss Craske after having been a student of another Baba lover, Celine Keller, whose name I haven't heard in a long time. Anyway, I was one that she slashed to pieces. I would also be sent to the back of the room to work, not on my tendus, but on my frappes, and then get called to the front. Let's see them now. And no, they were never right. So I was pretty, I mean, it was helpless and hopeless is really my state. And I had heard of Baba. I knew that people were coming to see her, but I had no discipline. I wasn't interested. I was a very stubborn person. Anyway, I made it out to California and landed on Louise Barry's table. She was doing a kind of body work that she also brought to Arnavaz, I think. Anyway, out of all the things that could happen, like the second session I had with Louise, she asked me, and somehow she found out that I was a student of Margaret's. And it was really then through Louise that Baba, and then I went back to New York and I saw her at the Hotel Wellington, and I wanted to ask her, because and I don't remember a lot of what she said, but one thing she said to me that really gripped me was, don't judge Baba by his lovers, by his followers. And I was like, that did not make any sense to me, because, I mean, I don't want to say anything political, but like Mussolini, you would judge Mussolini by the people who followed him, and Hitler. And but I was and still am a very judgmental person. So those were settled deeper and deeper into me. Don't judge Baba by, don't let your judgments get in the way of your love for Baba. So. And I was with her at Jacob's Pillow too, and there was another moment. I got quite sick at Jacob's Pillow after having been a prig, because I was one of her students from New York City, and but and people were like, they really didn't like me because I was such a prig and so judgmental. I thought I could be useful to people. And after I got humbled and really made a real shift in how I was with people, because a friend lovingly told me my impact. And then by the time I left, I was devastated to be sick and to have to leave. And people, by that point were like really, really sorry to see me go. So it was really the love that was working all the way, even though I didn't, it wasn't time to come to Baba directly to her, but she was the link. She was the link. Thank you for letting me share, Jay Baba.
Jay Baba, such a frank and beautiful sharing.
Yes. Thank you, Deborah. That was wonderful.
It's wonderful to be here. Really
Such
is.
a blessing. Baba's so good to us to give us this kind of this opportunity.
Yes. Deborah, may I ask your last name?
Oh, it's Marks, M-A-R-K-S.
Oh my goodness. But you're not related to the Marks.
Not as far as
Okay.
I know.
I just wondered, yes. I do remember hearing your name though. Yeah. Thank you.
Rosalie, you had your hand up earlier and you haven't, I don't know if you shared a little bit.
Well, one thing I thought of was when the beginning of her life was talked about, and they talked about Baba coming and giving her an order to open the door, but actually the order was to close every door in the place. It was not her place. It was Kitty Davies' parents' house. So she had to close every door and then she was to let Baba in. To me, that was so significant, as a follower of Meher Baba, her and Baba, love that about her. Yeah. And actually, one time, it was years ago, I was at the center and I had brought, I remembered that Jane Haynes had, she had a particular fondness for Zazu Pitts, who I love Zazu Pitts too. So I found a picture of Zazu Pitts in this magazine and she was in an evening gown and Jane was showing, I think he was a senator, but he was like having a human being that was a rooster. He was walking around with his chest thrown forward. And Jane, when I gave her the picture, she was with him and she was like courting him, just all her ultimate in charm. And he was eating it up and just strutting about. And I guess they were trying to keep the center from having to pay taxes, that tax exempt thing. So it was important. But I remember he almost ran into Margaret Craske. And Margaret sent him a glance that it would have snapped him out of his rooster trip if he'd seen. He didn't see, he was so oblivious and self-absorbed. He's strutting and Jane, it was funny because she lost her concentration on entertaining him. When she saw Zazu, she went, "Oh, Zazu." And she said, it was funny. And then she had to catch herself and get back into, "Oh, yes, Senator." And she showed him around, but it just struck me so much that, the force, the centeredness of Margaret, because she wasn't very tall, but, just a big presence. And I also remember something that Phyllis Frederick loved. They loved each other a lot. And I know Phyllis Frederick would send her murder mysteries. She'd finish them and then she'd send them off to Margaret. And Phyllis had shared that she and Adele Walken used to live with Elizabeth Patterson, Norina, and Nadine. And, can you imagine being in that household? I'm sorry. It's like, and it was hard on Phyllis. And Margaret was the one that had her stand up for herself in that household. It was very different for Adele, but I remember that and I thought, wow, she was a very significant Margaret in Phyllis's life. She absolutely loved Margaret. and I saw one of those pictures that you showed were so beautiful. And I remember that in Phyllis's office, as you entered her office, that picture of her with her long earrings and just so beautiful. Yeah. But the books, her books that she wrote are extraordinary, just like a purity to them. And I would want everyone to share in those books. I love children's stories, good children's stories where people don't pretend that they're big and important. And Margaret just, all of that humor is in those books. And I have to say, I don't think of it as British humor. I think of it as universal humor, and Baba and her. And plus there's a scene actually in a movie, and I watch it on, it's Love Comes West. And Margaret and Baba had this thing where Baba would look very intently out somewhere. They were together, and Margaret would look to where he was looking, then he'd slap her lightly on the cheek. And they did that for a long time, it says, a long time, until finally she thought, you're not going to catch me again. It was always that way. Well, that is on that film. It happens very quickly, but Baba looks and she looks, and I think the Sufis kind of edited it or something, cut a little of it out, but I know he whacks her on the face, and then he jostles her shoulders. The feeling between them, the comfort. And I also used to hear that when he was with the dancers, he could be loose and fun, and they just he let his hair down with the dancers, and with Margaret, Anyway, I'm very grateful for my indirect contact with her, but also my middle name is Margaret. So I feel, she was a pearl. She was a pearl, which that name means, not a life without suffering, and so she had that understanding. Jai Baba. And this was fabulous. Yeah.
Oh, Rosalie, you just brought icing to the cake. Thank you. All those, I remembered, I've forgotten that part about how Baba would do that.
Oh, yeah, but also that he told her to close the door to every room in the house, and she was to open it. To me, that was like mega importance. Like, wow, that is,
beautiful.
And it wasn't even her house. Yeah, yeah. So, and that was her first order, and she just did it. She would always just do what he wanted. She wouldn't say, "Oh, Baba," or there wasn't resistance. And she didn't even follow him then. She was just meeting him. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Robin Vogel, thank you for being so patient.
I just have a quick one. I only met Margaret once in 1979 in the spring on Kitty's porch when I was about to go in and see Kitty. And my friend introduced me to Margaret and said she was a famous ballerina and a close disciple of Baba's. And I said, oh, I have a niece who's a dancer. She's just graduated high school and she's not sure what she's going to do next. And I didn't say her name or anything, of course. And Margaret just said, oh, I'm sure she'll figure it out. And that was it. And a week later, my sister called, and she's not open to Baba or anything like that. But she said, and she knows a lot of famous people. It's a long story, but so she said to me, Sue, her daughter, went down to New York City and had an audition with a famous ballerina who's giving her a year scholarship to dance with her. And she said her name is Margaret Craske. And I said, Judy, I just met Margaret Craske. And my sister's like, what do you mean you met her? Like, how could you be meeting somebody like that? And I said, I didn't almost know what to say because my sister thinks this is all weird. And I just said, you know, she's a close disciple of Mayor Baba's, and she was at the center where I just was. And she just sort of put that out of her mind. It was like, that doesn't compute, you know, let's let that go. But I have to say, it was a wonderful whole, you know, story with my niece. But and my sister, Baba's been doing some little reeling in with her from my point of view, not my sister's. But anyway, that's a whole nother story, but I just thought I'd tell you that one. Thanks.
Thanks, Robin. Well, is there anyone else that might have something they want to speak to? It's been so beautiful. So Karen, I know Karen and Alan are here and they haven't said much at all. Karen, do you have something? Miss Karen,
Just to say Jai Baba and thank everybody for sharing their beautiful, wonderful stories of Miss Craske. Jai Baba.
Well, thank you both for the opportunity. My goodness, what a treat to remember these incredible disciples. What adjective can we use? Unbelievable, really.
Thank you, Wendy. It's true. Well, then we'll just have a moment of silence unless someone else is. Okay.
Alan wanted to say something. Alan.
Oh, good. Thanks, Deborah.
Please don't.
Alan, go ahead.
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
All right. Well, this story was told to me by Saurabh, and it was during the ashram, during the Blue Bus tours. And in the afternoon, apparently, the people got a chance to do their private matters, like wash their clothes or something like that. So one day, Margaret was washing her clothes, and Jal came and said, "Margaret, Baba wants to see you right now." He was very kind of in a hurry. But Margaret thought, well, Jal always tells jokes, so I'll just continue. So she continued washing her clothes. A few minutes passed, and Baba called Pendu. He said, "Pendu, go tell Margaret that I want to see her." And he was getting angry. So Pendu came to Margaret and said, Margaret, why didn't you come? Baba wanted to see you. And now she got very disturbed. And she came running to Baba. And Baba was furious. You know, when he would have his eyes flashing, that kind of mood. And he went off on her pretty good. And after she had a chance to say something, she said, "Well, Baba, you know, when your brother Jal came, he always tells jokes, so I thought he was teasing. So I didn't take it seriously. But then when you sent Pendu, I realized you wanted to see me." And Baba had come down a little bit and he said, "It's true what you say about Jal. He does tell jokes." And this is the sign that Saurabh used in describing Baba. He said, "But when Jal is talking about me," pointing to himself, Baba pointing himself, "he doesn't joke." And for Margaret, that was a great lesson. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. What a full, amazing life is all I can say with the beloved. What an incredible life with Baba. Well, someone asked if I would go ahead and show the slideshow once again. So I'll go ahead and share that. It'll be pretty quick. I can find it.
Now, what happened about that film of Ambika about cat?
Oh, yes, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that. Let me see here. Okay. Let's see. Are you all seeing Ambika now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go.
Up and down. I put my finger on Margaret Craske. I had never heard of anybody. I didn't know anybody in Myrtle Beach anyway. So I walked down to meet Margaret. I walked in the back door where she was sitting on the porch. I saw this woman. I just fell in love with her. At the moment. And she was wonderful. And we had a wonderful time kibitzing back and forth.
Can you tell a little bit about her personality? Or?
Well, actually, we had a silent time mostly, but there was a time when I was sitting on the floor building a fire, and she was in a wheelchair, and she said something, and I looked up at her, and her eyes pierced me to my very core. I couldn't maintain the look. It's just like she burned into my soul. Of course, later I felt she was giving me, and I thought, oh, if I could only have maintained that look a little longer, I might have, you know, something, well, it didn't. And we had a very nice time kidding back and forth. And the next time, well, there were several times. I'm trying to remember, there was another time at her house too, but I don't recall it. But the next very significant time, well, you see, I came in March, and I was there. She didn't want me to go to India. She said everything's here, and I didn't listen to her. I had to go myself. So I went by myself that first time. And there's a little squirrel. So I stayed with her in the hospital. I guess I never left when she was there. And people would come and go. That last day, the last day, we were going to wash her, and I asked Melinda if we could oil her. And she said, why not? So we oiled her. But Melinda told me later that Margaret had said, I can't go until I've been sunned. And she didn't know what it meant. And I don't know what it meant, but maybe she meant massaged, I don't know, or oiled. And so I was with her in the room about 8 o'clock that night, and Marshall and some other woman was in the room. I don't remember who it was. And Marshall was at the foot of the bed, and I was standing on her. Oh no, something happened that day. A lot of people were coming in. They knew she was dying. I didn't even think of her dying, actually. And Barbara Gone and I were in the room, and Margaret made a motion to get rid of the people. That's a little unkind to say. She wanted to be done, but Barbara said Margaret wants everybody to leave, so I ushered everybody out. And I was going out into the hall too to close the door, and Barbara called me back and said, Margaret wants you. Now, I don't know, I think Barbara was still in the room then, but I went to the bed, her right side, and I had on this Irish sweater that my daughter had given me. So Margaret slowly put her hands up and grabbed the sweater and pulled me down right on top of her, and slowly took her arms around and pressed me so hard. And I was very surprised at her strength. And then she slowly took her arms away and put her hands on my chest and pushed me away with great force. And it took me by surprise, of course. She did this 3 times. And then she dismissed me. I can't tell you how she dismissed me. I knew it was all over. But those 3 times were extraordinary. Whatever they mean, I don't know. I meant to ask Mani, but I couldn't. I never asked anything to any of the Mandali except Mani once when I was coming back from Merazad, and I had this hit that I had to stay there forever. So I thought, well, if I'm going to ask, I better ask Mani. So I asked Mani that I had this feeling that I should stay there, and I was willing to live there because I didn't have, you know, all my kids were grown. I didn't have anything really to go back to. So Mani closed her eyes and opened them, and she said, "Baba wants you in Myrtle Beach." So that was it. So I've been here ever since.
Hey, Baba.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Jai
And,
Baba.
and that's from a video that Robin took? Yes?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful, Robin. I'm so happy you found that part of it. It's wonderful.
Is this woman still
ahead.
with us?
Who is it?
Is this woman still with us? Is she still, or was she with Bob?
No, she died in 91. 91. What,
No, that was
I'm
Margaret.
sorry, I'm so sorry. Yes. No, I mean, well, who did you say?
She's talking about Ambitha, who is still alive.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Because very much with us. But
Yeah.
actually, she moved to, sorry, I don't want to cut anybody off, but I can't hear, you know? Okay. Ambika just recently left, actually, moved to a nursing home in Mount Pleasant, which is near Charleston, South Carolina. It's only about an hour and a half from here. And she's very happy there. She was not happy here in Myrtle Beach. The manor was too dark and she just wasn't happy. So it was meant to be. We all were sorry, but also we had a wonderful celebration, goodbye, farewell at the gateway, and that was very precious. But I wanted to may I just say that Margaret, as Ambika said, took an instant. They clearly had an affinity from the past life because they just instantly took to each other. And Margaret called her Beauty. That was her nickname for Ambika. And Ambika was very elegant. Those of you who know her know that. Very elegant and had the body of a dancer. She was a gymnast and actually qualified for the Olympic trials for gymnastics. She was unbelievably nimble anyway in those days. So I'm glad she remembered as much as she did, because she is forgetful now. But anyway, I stay in close touch with her. So I'm especially thrilled to be able to see that. Oh, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Have time? Well, I was so struck, I had forgotten that Margaret pushed her and pulled her and pushed her 3 times, because I immediately thought that's what Baba did with me and Charles and John, all 3 of us, that 3 times exactly. I mean, it was, so I thought of Baba, because Baba was obviously working through her to do that. I also don't know what it means. And frankly, I never thought to ask one of the Mandali. I should have, but I never did. Anyway, I just thought of Baba when she said that, and my own experience.
You know, that clip of Baba and Margaret, he's pushing and pulling her as well.
Yeah.
I love it. And when I saw the still photos, they were too hazy to put in the video, but it really was a gorgeous, elegant dance between Baba and her. I mean, I can't explain it, but the stills, you can go on Meher Baba Traveling and look at the stills and you'll see what I mean. It really was beautiful. their dance. Yeah. Elizabeth, go ahead, honey.
Well, when you guys were talking about the push and pull, I just recently saw that beautiful film about Merwan Jasawala taking a walk up Seclusion Hill. And he talks about the push and pull of the master and it being a very, very fine thread. It's a video about an hour long. It's truly amazing. And it's about the journey. It's about the relationship between the lover and the beloved. And he talks about this certain place along the path where it does a switchback. So you're going laterally instead of up, but you're still not going up. And all the Mandali got there, and he said all the Mandali got to the point that they were about to call it quits, and that they were so low, and that for some reason they turned toward Baba again, and he gave a slight pull. And he said that thin is a very, very, very fine thin, and you have to hold on tight. And then you continue after that switchback, and you turn your face toward Baba again. You get the tug, and you continue up the path. But anyway, that's what it sounded like to me when you guys were talking about it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That's beautiful. Great connection. Ms.
Yeah.
Viola.
Sorry, go ahead, honey. I just wanted to say I have thought about it, you know. I have given some thought to it through the years. And that was kind of what came to me, was that it's a push and pull in the relationship with Baba, but that he never lets go. You know, you think he has, or you think that it's like Eric told us of the image of the rope. And Baba's holding one end and we're holding the other. And sometimes you feel like he's let go of the other end, but he has never let go of you. He just lets it slack in the middle. So you feel like, uh-oh, I'm all by myself. And it's one reason why Mira loved the footprint story so much. She carried it around with her for the last year of her life. You know, the wonderful story of, that's why have you forsaken me? Because I only see one pair of footprints. That wonderful story. And the Lord saying, that's when I carried you, because you were suffering the most. It's such a beautiful, beautiful image. Anyway, we could go on and on, couldn't we?
Yes, and we can. We do have a little more time. But yes, also the thing about Baba, that story of Baba talking about the yo-yo, that he throws you out and he brings you back. It makes me think of that. Yes, thanks, Wendy, that push-pull thing as well. And you know, I mean, when you're out there, you feel like you're just out in midair, and the connection is not what you always concentrate on or see. But the minute you do, you know, it's the rescue time. The minute you're able to refocus on the beloved again, it seems like, yeah, you're rescued right there, and you're not floating in midair anymore. Anyway, everybody has that. I know the same things.
Miss Craske had said that to me, that exact same thing, that time where she said, oh, you used to love Baba. And she said, oh, Baba pulls us in, these very words, and Baba pushes us back. And then it's when we are maybe developing that longing or that whatever it is, we're being wiped out, then he pulls us in and pushes us back. And twice I've had the experience of repeating or bringing to one Mandali member something another Mandali member had said. And I remember the attention that they paid, because it came from that, for me saying it is one thing, but for Miss Craske to have said it, and or any of them to have said something, when another Mandali member, so what, I mean, maybe Marwan wasn't considered a Mandali member, I don't know, but he certainly was very close to Baba. And one time I was having tea with him and I shared that story with him, and I felt, oh, that I see he's that recognition. Yeah, and I don't know, that's a little extra part. I have to say goodbye because I'm so tired, and but I wanted to share something maybe fluffy. This was Miss Craske's also. And I think this was one that Tex had given her. I have another that was hers that's pearl-like. But this one, I believe Tex had given her. And I know people have shared their necklaces before, so I thought I just must do it. And so when I have to say goodbye, I'm so sorry. I haven't eaten much. I love you, Jay, Baba. I mean, Baba loves us, right? But in our way. Jay, Papa.
Papa Viola.
Thank you.
So wonderful that you were able to be here.
Jay, Papa, thank you all.
Jay Baba. Well, I could show that video again or not. It just depends on whether people want to see it.
Can I say one more thing about that film?
Yes.
That was a story of Baba showing the Mandali the path. So he was relating that story. So it wasn't just Marwan Jesawala himself, but he was relating what Baba told the Mandali about the path. I'm sorry, Viola didn't hear that part because anyway, so just so people know. Yeah.
Elizabeth, could you tell
Yes.
us? Could you tell us the name of the video again?
It's just Marwan Jesawala walks up Seclusion Hill or something like
Okay.
that. And I
Great, yeah.
either found it on the Circle of Friends YouTube or possibly Bob Frederick's.
Okay.
I'm not sure which place I found it, but
Great, thank you.
yeah, no one referred it to me. I just thought, wonder what this is about. And I was shocked and amazed.
Thank you. Jay Baba, Elizabeth, thank you.
Hey, Baba.
Let's see. Marta, did you have your hand up? There you are.
Yes, Ruth, I just wanted to ask you, dear, would you read that poem out loud of Monies for me?
I'll tell you what, Wendy, do you have it? I
It's
have
in
it.
the book. It's in
No,
the
you
book.
only have it on the slideshow. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's good.
thank you.
And Ruthie, did you tell them what book you found it in? Because it is in one of the books.
Thank you. Yes, it is in Still Dancing with Love. And it's like on the second page. Thank you, Rosalie, for such knowledge, because I was searching and I asked after Artie and Rosalie said, oh yeah, wait a minute. It's on the second page. Here it is. So I'm grateful to you, Rosalie.
Yes, Rosalie has been quite a jewel for all this. Thanks, Rosalie. You come up with some good stuff.
Yeah, well, it has some good material.
Yeah, you do.
Some good material.
Michelle. Hello, Michelle. I haven't seen you. Well, again, there's just some people left. If you want to see it again, put your hand up, and I'm not offended. All right. We'll see it again. She's just too gorgeous not to look at again. And I hope I have it at the beginning. Let me see, where am I? Whoa, here we are.
There it is.
There it is. And I don't know if I probably can bring it. Let me start it here. Okay, it says, Margaret. Somebody's singing in the background. That's Rosalie, I know. Darling dancer of the beloved, I can't say it. Yeah, say it.
Nataraja.
No, I'm saying it wrong again. Meher Baba for her birthday, 26 November 1981. Dancer dancing to his word, footsteps winging as a bird. Abandoned flight of blazing light, whirling in divine romance. Dancer, dancer, dance his dance. In the bower of his smile, you may want to rest a while. But keep on dancing, dancer, please, for his dance can never cease. To the drum of God-man's heart, in which all music has its start, to every move of brow or finger, from creation's soundless singer, to every gesture, every glance, dance, dancer, dance his dance. In the bower of his smile, you may want to rest a while, but keep on dancing, dancer, please. Naraja's dance can never cease. And that was written by Mani to Margaret in 1981.
Nataraja, I think it's Shiva, the
Yes.
dance of Shiva.
That's
See him
right.
dancing.
He's the Lord of the Dance. Lord of the Dance.
Yeah.
Dancer dancing to his word, footsteps winging a bird, abandoned flight of blazing light, whirling in divine romance. Dancer, dancer, dance his dance to the drum of God's heart, in which all music has its start. From creation's soundless singer to every gesture, every glance. Dance, dancer, dance, dance. In the power of his smile, you may want to rest a while, but keep on dancing, dancer, please not to rush. His dance can never cease, not to rush. His dance can never cease. Dancer dancing to his word, footsteps winging as a bird, abandoned flight of blazing light, whirling in divine romance. Dancer, dancer, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, his dance, dance his dance, his dance, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, his dance, not to rush his dance, can never cease. Dance his dance, his dance, dance his dance, dance his dance, his dance, his dance, dance his dance, his dance, oh dance, his dance, his dance, his dance, his can never cease, never cease.
So beautiful, Ruthie. Oh, you muted, honey. Ruthie, you muted.
Took me a minute to get back. Thank you.
Oh, it's beautiful, Ruthie.
Thank
You
you
did
so
a wonderful job. Really, so lovely.
What can I say? You know, the material was all right there. So beautiful.
It's amazing. I've never seen a lot of those photos before.
Yes. Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence. Jai Baba. Thank you, everyone, for being here in
Jai
remembrance.
Baba. Jai Baba, everyone.
Jay Baba, thanks everyone
Bye
for all your
bye.
beautiful shares.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
This
you.
was exquisite.
Unmute yourselves, guys. Let's have a cacophony of goodbyes.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you. It's wonderful to see all of
Jai
you.
Baba.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the stories.
Jai
Thank
Baba.
you.
Mwah.
Thank you.
So great to see you all. My goodness.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye
Jai Baba.
bye. Wonderful to see you.
Girls
Jai
saying goodbye.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Bye bye.
Bye.
Jai Baba.
Bye. Mwah.